We are about to start our regularly scheduled meeting. Let the record show that it's 3 or 4 minutes past 7 p.m. Mr. Clerk,
Mayor Joseph,
here.
Councilman Galvin, Councilwoman Keys,
Here.
Vice Mayor Bieneme, Councilman Azume. Mayor, we have a quorum to proceed.
Okay, we will proceed with Pledge of Allegiance. Is it Commander Mezido?
Everyone face the flag. Put your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commander. Now we proceed with Commander Brinson with invocation.
Let us all bow. Father in heaven, we thank you for all your blessings. We thank you for life, health, and strength. We thank you for the opportunity for all of us to gather here today to go about the city's business. We hope and pray that everything said and done here will go for the upbuilding of our great city. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, we have the agenda here. At this time, we'll ask the manager to please present any addition, deletion, amendments.
I do not have any changes, but just want to remind everybody that we do have the quasi-judicial item at the end, and they should fill out. Are the cards in the back? Yeah, they are. The cards can be filled out in the back if you want to speak on the item.
Okay, special presentation. We'll all go down and join the Chief of Police, Chief Juriga, in a special presentation.
That's good.
Good evening, everyone, Mayor and council members. The Officers of the Month for January 2019 are Detective Gideus Frederick and Detective Rocio Torres, if they would both join me. Detectives Torres and Frederick received reports from the mother of a 6- and an 8-year-old who had advised that a family associate had been molesting these two young girls for quite a long time. As a result of the accusations, forensic interviews were scheduled and probable cause was obtained to bring the subject in for questioning. The subject was questioned at our police department by these two fine detectives, and after acting as a team and continuing to interview this subject for several hours, they were able to obtain a full confession where this predator admitted to molesting these two young children for many, many months. Detective Gideus Frederick and Detective Rocio Torres arrested the subject and brought comfort to these traumatized juveniles as well as their mother. Through their tenacious efforts, these detectives protected these young victims from further harm and prevented this subject from victimizing anyone else. The actions of both detectives are to be commended. Standing up for justice and protecting our citizens, especially our young children, is their sworn duty. They were truly guardians in this case. Please join me in recognizing these two fine detectives. And Rocio, ladies first, on behalf of the mayor and the council and the city, here's your recognition for Officer of the Month, January 2019. And Gideus, also for you, sir. On behalf of the city and the mayor and council, here's your recognition.
A little tall. Thank you for everyone for being here and helping recognize myself and Detective Frederick. We love what we do and we love helping the citizens of the city of North Miami day in and day out. So thank you for having us.
Once again, thank you. Like my partner said, we pretty much work a lot of our cases hand in hand as a team, as a duo. Thank you to the chief and also the city, mayor, council, and everybody else. And we really do appreciate working for the city of North Miami. Thank you.
We need a motion for the consent agenda. Agenda items A and B.
Wait,
It's only A and B.
what is B?
That's the, Mr. I'm just opening it. Oh, okay, never mind.
What is B?
No.
Wait. Can we
Sure,
put B for discussion?
All right, so I guess I got a motion to approve the consent agenda, only tab A. That motion was, that motion was made by Councilman Desmay. Do I have a second?
No, there was no motion. You said the motion to.
Approve consent agenda, only tab A.
Only tab A.
Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
I have a second made by Councilman Galvin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passed with a 5-0 vote. Item B, proposed resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement in substantially the attached form between the city of North Miami and Circle of One Marketing, Inc. to provide marketing services for the Clean City Task Force and providing for an effective date and all other purposes. That was tab B.
And I have some explanation. Sorry.
Yes, sir. Several weeks ago, we did a presentation on the Clean City Task Force, and at that presentation, we brought Circle of One. We showed some of the marketing materials that they had. We explained at that meeting that we were going to bring back an agreement with them to carry on with the future services. Unfortunately, I wasn't here this week, so I wasn't able to brief you on it, so I apologize for that. But this is that agreement. Through this agreement, they would be providing all sorts of the marketing materials, the T-shirts, the logos, some of the materials they've already done, but future materials, the Earth Day presentation, all of that would be covered for the rest of for a 1 calendar year. The contract is for $90,000 a year, which is why it's under consent agenda, because it would have been under the $100,000.
That's when the marketing company is going to cost $90,000
Yes, sir.
for marketing.
Yes, sir.
How much? How many people do we have on the street? Employees in that task force.
I believe it's 11. I believe it's 11.
The question, sir. What's the question?
How many employees do we have
In what, sir?
for that cleanup team? That's two
That's
separate
two
things.
separate things.
The marketing for what?
So the marketing is, for example, we were just talking about it earlier today. Cagney Park, one of the issues of Cagney Park is that with the clean team, the folks that are going out cleaning, they're finding that there's a lot of trash there because the kids that play in the park are leaving chips and putting in potato chips in bags and that sort of thing. So we would do a event at Cagney Park for those kids to try to educate to not clean, to not litter. So those type of materials, getting the press, all that backup would be done by the marketing team.
What marketing? If they don't have a garbage can to put those chips and things like
So
that, where you think they are?
this is only one part. As we tried, I know I spent a whole lot of time on that
Yeah, but
presentation.
I understand.
This
You
is
said you're
only
gonna
one this is only
you're
one
gonna
part.
spend $90,000 on marketing, right?
Say again, sir.
You're gonna spend $90,000 for marketing.
If you approve the contract tonight, yes, you would be approving a contract for $90,000 to
Just to teach the kids not to
all the
throw
residents
those
to
plastic on the street.
It
But
would.
where they're gonna put it?
Where
If
would
we don't have trash can at those parks.
Sure, this is only one piece of the Clean City Task Force, one of the recommendations that we're making. So right now, your efforts to clean a city, right now is 13
Excuse
people.
me, give me a few seconds to open it to the public
Okay.
and then bring
After.
it. The item is now open to the public. That's tab B. Tab B.
Jim Garrett, 11610 North Bayshore Drive. I spoke to Councilman Keys and Mr. Cazot, the city attorney. I think that this marketing effort is needed in our community, number one. Number two, I think that we also need to get the illegal dumping people, like the one that was out in my neighborhood on Saturday night when I left at 10:30, and I confronted him on the corner of Northeast 18th Avenue and North Bayshore Drive, and he gave me the universal sign of love. Okay? When I confronted him. Thank you, North Miami Police Department, for coming out and surrounding, going back and getting him. I think it's needed in this community. We need to also do a thing. The legal dumping is out of control. We can have so many people, city workers, collecting the trash, but there are people coming in here and they dumping because we have a generous policy with large trash pickups once a week. Every lawn guy in Northeast State County is coming in here and dumping their stuff in this city. That's the realization. Yes, we need to educate our residents. And also, we do need cans in the parks, in the major parks, too.
Who's
But
timing
also-
this? Who's timing this? Nobody's timing.
Okay. But however, the parents need to take responsibility and give them a good a good swift kick in the where. If I have a litter, my dad would have kicked me in the where. So that's part of the responsibility. Thank you.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jessica Olson, 1140 Northwest 125th Street. I think that $90,000 is excessive amount of money for doing a propaganda campaign about cleaning the city. I think that it may be able to be combined with some other entity. I don't believe that all those funds are necessary for that project. And I would like to say, in regards to the clean team, once they spray the streets, cleaning up the leaves, they need to bag the leaves. They need to bag the leaves. Otherwise, when they leave, they just disassemble back where they were before. Just a note. Thank you.
All right. Public hearing is now closed on the item. We'll come back to the dais. The councilman, Vice Mayor Bien-Aimé.
I don't think there's anybody here opposing to clean up the city. What we are discussing is spending $90,000 for marketing. In that $90,000, did you include education?
So it is education. I mean, that's what this this is. Again, I apologize. I wasn't here this week. I was out on city business. I could have given a presentation or prepared a presentation. If you want to hold off, we can bring this item back and we'll do a full presentation, and I can go through all the slides and show you why we're doing this. But it's marketing, it's education, it's a number of things that we can't do as staff that we're asking a marketing company to do. I mean, they would do. And we've talked about any number of things that they would do in terms of educating the community.
But Mr. Kazo, you said we cannot do it. Staff cannot do it. Understand that we have a PIO department. If you add $90,000 to the budget and ask them to expand the educational part, and I'm pretty much sure they will be able to do the job, don't you? Don't you think that?
I don't know, sir.
Because I understand you're going to educate the kids, but
Sir, it's
if
not.
there's
This,
no track
I gave you
camp-
one example. It's not just the kids. You keep saying the kids, but it's an education campaign for the 60,000 residents that are in the city. It's not just the kids. I
That's
gave
when
you one
te-
example.
You're telling me PIO cannot do the job. You have
No.
to hire an outside company and spend $90,000 to do the job, right?
Mr. But if
I'm
I
not
may,
done. Can I finish?
Oh, I thought you were done.
No, I'm
Okay.
not done. Yes.
Vice Mayor, what I would say is, obviously the PIO has its normal duties that they're doing. This would be a supplement to that. So it's not that I wouldn't want to put this level of additional resources on the PIO's office. This is something that we would certainly need
but
some
Mr.
supplementals.
Manager, if I may, you don't have any expert who does marketing in PIO, so I don't think they could do it. That's just me to say that because they don't do marketing. What they do is public information, which is what they would do. So if you need to, the only reason that I asked the item, I did not really know. I'm not really questioning the price or what was questioning the item. I just was
That's
asking
not
about
what
it
we
until
said.
I read
I'm
it.
talking. We did
No,
not
but
say
you-
if you question. I'm questioning, not
Okay,
you.
but are you done?
I'm not done.
Okay, when you're done, I would like to
I'm not
follow up with your
questioning the
thing.
item. I'm just questioning the fact that we are spending $90,000 just for information, to put information out there, when it is something that we can do in house, or put more people on the street to clean up the street, more garbage trash in our parks and public places. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not.
If it's the will of the council, we'll, table the item and bring it back. So we can have a further conversation with you.
Because we need to clean up the street, but we need to put more people on the street
and
to clean up the street. And in some area, there is no trash can, there is no recycle garbage can in our parks and public facilities. I think we should spend money on those first, then start educating people not to put the trash on the floor.
Well, we are doing, as you know, we are undertaking all of those items operationally right now. We do have the clean team out that's out every day, 5 days a week. We've been working with parks because I know we've had some issues in some of the parks that have been in the paper, and we've addressed those. So it's all part of. It's just multiple pieces of this process. But if you choose to table the item now,
Go ahead. Good.
Yes, I'm done.
I honestly think that we need it. I mean, reading the detail of the, of the summary of the item, I don't know if the questioning is 90,000 for a marketing firm, which is too low, but it is what it is. I mean, it is work. You are talking about, you are talking about marketing for an entire city of 65,000 folks to, encompass education and everything. And as someone who used to do marketing for the Children's Trust and so many other companies, I'm not really questioning the amount. So I'm okay with moving forward as far as the marketing aspects of it, and especially what I've seen when I've gone to various events and seen the marketing aspects from the Zoe Summer Groove, and the branding of the city task force group, and I think that's something that is needed.
Okay, since
I am still applauding our city attorney for starting this initiative with a clean team. It's an entire package. Unfortunately, we're piecemealing this, and I think it's important for our residents. Educating them, telling them what they can and can't do. Having our residents, it's not just telling what they can't do, it's educating our public, letting them know that we are working, giving them a better sense of pride of their community. It's a whole thing. I go to North Miami Beach, I see the cars with a clean team. I was like, wow, this is great. The city really cares about them. It's all a package. It's all marketing. It's making our residents feel good. Not my business to know whether this is a good price or not. We have our purchasing, and if our attorney says, Mr. Cazot says, you know, this is what we need and these are the right people, then I'm all for it, because we do need some amount. We're gonna like not do it because we can get it for $10,000 somewhere else. I think it's important. I'm very proud of our clean team and what we're doing.
Councilman Keys, I'm not questioning the people on the street, the clean team. I will be in favor of putting more money in the clean in the clean team. More trucks. As far as trucks, we have 2 trucks right now. They have to send them to repair, and at any time one of them can stop on the street. That's what I'm talking about. Putting 90,000 in somewhere else.
I say we do both.
That's what I said. It's not like we're spending more money in marketing when they don't have a pickup truck to pick up the trash. That's what I'm talking about.
I think one of the most important things for the residents that I talk to, the biggest complaint, biggest problem is cleanliness in this city, and we're finally starting to do something. It is so important. People drive through our city. We've got drive-through. If we need more trucks, then we should just add it to our budget. But if this is part of the whole package, then I'm in agreement with Mr. Cazot. Let's do it all.
Anything? The only point of information that I would like to state is I'm looking at I don't know if it's the possible, well, that's not the actual contract, about the scope of work. The scope of work says consultant shall provide the city with strategy and marketing implementation services, including social media. Well, that's pretty much the same thing they said when they were here. But I would like to see a more detailed demarcation or delineation of all the services that they're going to actually execute once that contract is in effect. I mean, I would like to see it. I mean, for the we said $90,000. How many hours they intend to spend, going around, educating those. It's not just kids and adults, because adults do later as well. So it's not gonna be an easy task. And periodically, I would like to see some kind of report to see what kind of progress is being made. So we cannot just give them a blank, card and say, okay, here's $90,000, go out there and do whatever.
If I may respond to that.
Yeah.
One, they're responding directly to what the Clean City Task Force is asking them to do. Mm-hmm. So if you've seen what they've done so far, they've done all the banners that we've used at our cleaning events. They've done the T-shirts. They've done the coloring books. They've done the PSA commercial that we've had. They've gone out and made sure that there was media at our events. There's nothing that they cannot do. The reason we've kept it almost general is because we want to make sure that any idea that we come up with, that they will be able to implement. And so far they have been able to, but I don't want to come up with a specific list and then we decide that, hey, we want to have a hot air balloon and we can't do a hot air balloon because it's not a part of the list. They're doing everything that we've requested them to do, and that's what the contract
we can
says.
We can itemize and say not limited to.
We can add that, but what I'm telling you is that the contract already covers
At least we'll have an idea.
The contract covers pretty much anything that we can come up with.
Mr. Mayor? One last question. There is a termination of 90-day notice to the other party. Can we get that to 60? Would that?
That's fine.
That way, if we see that it's not working, we're not going to spend it up. We're spending $7,500 a month.
That's fine.
Okay,
we can change it to
if we
60.
feel it's not working, we can always just stop it.
Okay, we need a motion to either approve or table. I understand there was that possibility, that request of tabling. I'll take any of them.
I'll make a motion to approve it with a change to a 60-day termination clause.
Second.
Just to be clear, that's regarding your changes, not the changes the mayor also requested. So is your motion to approve with the amendments regarding the changes you approved only, or are we going to include what the mayor?
What
I would
changes-
like
Did you want something else added?
just for the itemization.
We'll just
of,
we'll provide a,
itemization of.
we'll just
tasks.
provide it.
Okay, so, which would also include itemization recommended by the mayor.
Thank you.
All right, so I have a motion made by Councilwoman Keys to approve tab B with the amendments proposed by both Councilwoman Keys as stated on the record and Mayor Smith Joseph as stated on the record. That motion was seconded by Councilman Zume. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passed with amendments with a 5-0 vote. Tab C, proposed resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving the execution of a settlement agreement in substantially the attached form by and between the city of North Miami and North Miami Houses LLC relative to anticipated litigation, providing for repeal, an effective date, and all other purposes. That's tab C.
Is there a presentation?
That's me again, Mayor. If you all recall, back in September, there was we had an item where we revoked the short-term rental, the grandfathering of short-term rental status to property in the city. That happened in September. In October, they filed an appeal that would have gone to the special magistrate. Since that time, we've been going back and forth with the attorney. And this is the settlement agreement that we can't come up with. I could have done this in the executive session, decided this was pretty much open. Everyone knew what the issues were, so it wasn't really an issue. What they've decided, what we've agreed to, is that they would voluntarily cease using that property for short-term rentals on April 30th. And then after that, I'm not sure what they would do with the property. They would rent it, sell it, whatever. But they would voluntarily cease April 30th. The benefit to the city is that there's no litigation, there's no appeal. We know date certain that this is done. And then we could, if they were to turn around and continue to use the property as a short-term rental, they could no longer argue that they were grandfathered in as a short-term rental, and we would be able to prosecute them as we would any other property acting as a short-term rental. So this is a resolution of that matter, and we recommend that you approve it tonight.
Thank you very much. At this point of time, we'll open the item to the public. For whoever wants to be heard, please come to the mic. See no one, hear none. Public hearing is therefore closed. Back to the dais for any concerns, questions.
We had spoken, Mr. Attorney, about the discontinuation of advertising. I believe, as of a couple weeks ago, there's still advertisements.
What happened, and one of the reasons we ended up settling with them, is that this property was under contract, which would have gone beyond the time that we had revoked the short-term rental. So they would have been in contractual issues, which is what was prompting them to seek legal actions against us. So right now, they're able to continue as a short-term rental, as a grandfathered property, up until that April 30th. So you will see some advertising up until then for whatever dates that are in between those dates that they already had rented. But as of April 30th, they would cease short-term rental.
Is there any way we could include, I hate to go back and renegotiate a settlement agreement, but is there any way that if they do not cease, that we could go back and when we cite them, they are treated as a repeat offender? Is that a possibility? If they agreed to it, we could.
The thing is, there's no need to enter there wouldn't be any need to enter into an agreement with that, because they're either a repeat offender or they're not. So, 1, 2, 3 times of doing this, they would be a repeat offender. I don't need their agreement to do that, and I would hate to not enter into this agreement on that point, which I would get anyway. So.
No further questions.
Any other questions, concerns? If not, we need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion made by Councilwoman Keys to approve tab C. The motion was seconded by Councilman Galvin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passed with a 5-0 vote. Tab D, proposed resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving the selection of Aromatic Controls, Inc., APEC Tech Electrical and Air Conditioning, Inc., and Cool Breeze Air Conditioning Corp. as the lowest responsible contractors for the maintenance and repair of air conditioning systems in city facilities in accordance with invitation for bid number 81-17-18, air conditioning repair and maintenance services, further authorizing the city manager and city attorney to negotiate and execute agreements with the three selected contractors from the provision of the stated services in an amount not to exceed $99,000 annually, providing for an effective date and all other purposes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Alberto Estrada, Purchasing Director. The item that you have before you under tab D represents the results of solicitation number 811718 issued by my office for the purpose of soliciting bids from qualified and experienced firms to provide the city with air conditioning repair and maintenance services for all city facilities. As reflected in the council report that was submitted in support of the item, the city received 8 proposals in response to the solicitation. The tabulation of these 8 proposals can be found on the second page of the report. In order to ensure a prompt and effective level of service for AC maintenance for all city facilities, staff's recommendation is for the council to select and recommend award to the top 3 firms. In other words, the lowest 3 bidders under this solicitation, and they are Aromatic Controls, Apex Techs Electrical, and Cool Breeze Air Conditioning Corporation. The assignment of work for each one of these firms shall be distributed by staff so as to ensure a reliable level of service throughout the 24 different facilities covered under this contract. The initial term of the contract shall be for 3 years, and it will have 2 additional 1-year options to renew. The aggregate amount, as was mentioned previously, for this contract will not exceed $99,000 a year. This concludes my presentation, and if you have any questions, I will be glad to take them.
Thank you very much. We'll open the item to the public at this time.
Evan Ross, 17301 Biscayne Boulevard, on behalf of Apex Tech. First, I want to take a moment to thank Mr. Destrade, Mr. Ford for the work that they did on this. They did an excellent job with this procurement. I also want to thank them for the recommendation of splitting this between the 3 highest ranked firms. Apex Tech was your only bidder that qualified for local preference. Their office is actually right next door, just a block away. So they're right here when you need them. They've also, since soon prior to this procurement going out, been doing work for your Police Athletic League at our facility in the city at no cost to PAL. They've just been volunteering their time and providing all of that work at no cost for labor and dead cost for parts. So I want to thank staff again and ask that you approve the item as recommended tonight. Thank you very much.
Public hearing is still open, but I see no one coming. Public hearing is therefore closed. Any comments from the dais?
What is Mr. Evan talking about?
Don't worry about that.
No, because part of it was like, I'm like, okay, never mind.
I think you chose what, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, right?
3. We had a discussion and with Councilman DeSume, one of the recommendations is that instead of just having 1 firm, we would have 3 firms. That will give us more efficiency and cover the work and be able to spread it out. So that's what you have before you.
So you got it, your facts wrong, Mr. Ross, but it's okay.
That's 99,000 in total, right? To be split. All right. Then a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve tab D. The motion was seconded by Councilwoman Keys. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item passed with a 5-0 vote. Tab E.
Thank you.
Proposed ordinance, second reading of the Mayor and City Council of the City of North Miami, Florida, amending Chapter 7 of the Code of Ordinances entitled Finance at Article 3 entitled Procurement Code by amending Division 10 entitled Prohibition on the Use of Expanded Polystyrene to prohibit the use of single-use plastic beverage straws by city contractors and special event permittees in city facilities and on city property, providing for repeal, conflicts, severability, codification, and for an effective date. That was tab E, Mayor.
This is an item that was sponsored by Councilwoman Keys. This is second reading. As the title says, it's pretty self-explanatory. This would be a prohibition of sale of plastic straws by any city contractor or any special event permittees on any city-owned property or during any city-owned or any city events. This would just be added to the section in our code that deals with polystyrene. Several years ago, you banned the use of polystyrene in the city or in city facilities, and this is just an expansion of that law.
It just came to mind. So this ordinance will be presented to anyone seeking to rent any of the community centers for any reception, no?
Yes, any city-owned facilities. So any events that are at a city-owned facility.
So this will be attached to whatever information we're going to present to them?
It should, yes.
For them to know?
Yes.
Public hearing is open on the item. Item E, as in Easter. See no one here, none. Public hearing is therefore closed. Did you want to say something, Mr. Manager?
8 straws.
Just appreciate council's support on this. Wish we could do more, and hopefully we will be implementing a program for volunteering for our local businesses and restaurants to not use the plastic, styrofoams, and straws. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, through you to the city attorney, I assume that by approving this tonight, we'll be under the wire, so to speak, for the state's preemption that's coming down on this issue.
Yeah, so there has been some talk of the state coming in and preempting cities and municipalities from banning the use of plastic straws. But in those cases, and we were pretty careful to limit this to ourselves, so I'm pretty sure that anything that happens at the state level wouldn't affect this. The cities that have been a problem to the state, or what they see as a problem, are those cities that have banned the use throughout the city. And so restaurants and stores, they're not able to use it. Ours is pretty limited to only our facilities, and so even if they ban it or if they preempt it, it probably wouldn't affect ours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve tab E. That motion was seconded by Councilwoman Keys. Mayor Joseph, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Councilman Galvin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bieneme? Councilwoman Keys?
Yes.
And Councilman Nzume?
Yes.
Item passes with a 5-0 vote. Tab F. Proposed ordinance, second reading of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, amending Chapter 5 of the Code of Ordinances entitled Building Standards and Regulations at Article 5, Construction Fees and Regulations, Section 5-36 of the North Miami Code of Ordinances entitled Construction Site Maintenance, to add a requirement that there shall be no accumulation of debris around construction sites, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing a severability clause, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for an effective date. That was tab F.
Mayor and Council, this is an item that's second reading. This was sponsored by Councilman Galvin. As we discussed last meeting, this arose, there were several complaints from residents regarding construction sites near their neighborhoods and tires being punctured by nails and debris and unsightliness. So we're making a minor change to this section of the code, and what this requires, before we require that the contractors maintain the site itself. We're making a slight change to the code to require them to maintain the property around the construction site. That way we'd be able to enforce it through code enforcement. So if we find things like overflowing canisters and that sort of thing, debris in the street, this would create the ability for code to go out and cite them for that.
For code wait, say that again, mister.
This would give code the ability to cite in an instance where a contractor had an unsightly area around the construction site. Before this, when we got complaints that there were nails or there were other objects in the road or on outside the property, there really wasn't anything in our code that addressed that. This addresses that.
This is the item from last time.
This is second.
Oh, okay.
All right. Public hearing is now on the item. Item F as in Frank. See none, hear none. Public hearing is closed.
Question?
Yes, go ahead.
You talk about around. Does around mean inside the fence line? I mean the sidewalk line? I mean or is that the swale or?
We left it vague. So around is whatever the code enforcement person comes out and sees, or what the complainant or the resident says that the debris is, and we'd have to take this to the special magistrate and plead our case. But I didn't want to, again, you don't want to say it's one area and then it becomes another area and we can't enforce it because now it's not in the swale, it's actually in the street, or it's 6 feet out in the street.
I sent you pictures last night of a construction site, no fence, and there's a big pile of construction debris in the swale.
So that would be around the construction
Yeah,
site?
that would be around.
Yeah. So we'd now be able to enforce
So
this.
now, I'm just reading this. I just have a question. I mean, it's going on with code enforcement. It says construction fencing, and it says for any construction, you're supposed to have a construction fence. Is that correct? Any kind of construction? Is it?
Construction in this code, so construction site, whatever that is.
Because we have a lot of construction sites in my neighborhood, an awful lot, and there's a lot of construction. There's no fence, and there'll be a porta potty sitting in someone's front yard, and it's just been there. There's no fence doing it. There's other construction sites. We do have our dumpsters, which are to the top, but it seems like a lot of these properties are not being fenced. There's one that's really mostly, it's been taken down, the granite's up, and the only fencing is like these posts, like an aluminum fence, but there's no screening on it.
So are you suggesting that we have fences at every construction
I don't know.
site?
I'm just while we're on the topic, I'm just asking the question because
The answer is, this doesn't require that, so we'd have to set another standard that would require that. So if you're doing construction at your own home, you don't have to fence off your own home while you're building a new bedroom or something. You just have to clean up your mess that spills out into the street.
Steve Pizzolo, building official for the city, through the manager. We've always had them fence anytime where they were expanding the footprint of the building, or if they were like demolishing and the structure itself would be open to the public. If all of the work is contained like inside, they're doing an interior remodel and there's no way of getting inside of the property, then we would not require fencing.
So we do require fencing if you're doing exterior work.
Only if the envelope of the building is open at any time so that somebody can come in.
What does that mean in layman's terms? Envelope of the building?
Missing windows, missing doors, that the building itself is not secured and is able to get, is able to be somebody to just walk in.
Vandalized.
And porta potties are allowed to just be in people's yards without any fencing or? I'm
Yes.
just asking.
Yes.
Yes, so we don't need fencing, they just get to be there for a long time.
You'd be surprised how many joggers come out of porta potties in the morning.
Okay, I was just,
All right,
I'm just
thank you.
wondering, we're
Mhm.
just wondering, because
Wish
we
of
have
the
a lot of, this came up because we do have a lot of construction going on, a lot of messy sites, so thank you, Councilman.
All right, you gonna vote?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve tab F. That motion was seconded by Councilwoman Keys. Councilman Zume, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Joseph?
Yeah.
Councilman Galvin?
Yes.
Councilwoman Keys?
Here, yes, here, yes.
Vice Mayor
Yes.
Bieneme?
Yes.
Item passed with a 5-0 vote. Tab G, Proposed ordinance, first reading of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, amending chapter 11 of the city of North Miami Code of Ordinances entitled License and Business Regulations to establish Article 9, controlled, that's 11, Roman numeral 11, controlled residential parking areas limited to those who live in proximity to the zoned area, providing for inclusion in the code of the city of North Miami, and providing for an effective date.
Mayor, Council, this is first reading on an ordinance. This arose from several complaints that we got from residents, particularly on the 135th and the Arch Creek area. And I know, Councilwoman, you and I spoke about some complaints that we got on 125th Street. But this would apply 123rd Street. But this would apply citywide. What this does is, this is the ordinance that would allow the city to, in the future, create parking regulations or residential parking zones, so that if there's a community that's affected by vehicles from outside the community parking in that area, we would be able to establish a residential parking area in that area. That can be done in two ways. It can be done either by the manager if there's a need, and usually that would be residents coming and pointing out that there's a need for a residential parking area, or the residents themselves can petition the city by getting 51% of the neighbors in that area to request that a residential parking area be set up. If for some reason the majority of the residents don't want something like that, then as long as if 60% of the residents come and say we don't want a residential parking area, then there's no residential parking area. No residential parking areas are created by this ordinance. All this does is the enacting ordinance that allows us to do it in the future. In the future, you will get future ordinances that would actually enact or create those parking areas, either through the manager or through the residents if they come and petition for it. So we recommend approval.
Okay, item is open to the public. That would be tab G as in good. Could be God too. Yes. She's right there.
Good evening. My name is Valerie Holt, 1050 Northeast 122nd Street. I just more or less have a question on this.
Pull the microphone down. Yeah.
Okay. Does that mean, that doesn't mean that it's created for the neighborhood so everybody can park in the swales? Or does that mean that the owner of that property has the exclusive use of that? So businesses don't come or overflow from something else, comes in and uses your front yard because it's a swale as a parking area? I just would like a clarification, if I may.
Mr. Attorney, you want to?
So again, this is residential parking. So the idea is, for example, in the example of the 135th Street Arch Creek, right? Mm-hmm. One of the issues that we had in Arch Creek is, I believe the chief went out and we found someone had parked, one individual who lived on that street had parked 5 commercial vehicles in that street. There's limited parking on that street. So what we're able to do now is we'd be able to say, from the hours of 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., there's no commercial vehicles parked on that street. We'd also be able to say you're only able to park on that street if you have a residential parking decal or a visitor's.
Is Uber or Lyft considered commercial? Some people use them as their private vehicle.
We haven't defined, but typically what a commercial vehicle is going to be is something with a sign on the side of it on the van. So if there's a truck, a taxi cab, that sort of thing. So that's really what it is. It's not really meant to keep your neighbor off your swale. That's not really what it's meant to be. What it's meant to be is that it's individuals outside of that specific area are parking in there and causing a detriment to that neighborhood. And so that's probably the best example. There's probably going to be other examples.
In other words, you don't want people to go visit that area.
You can visit the area. I mean,
without a car.
No, you can visit the area if you're visiting someone in that area. There will be visitors passes that the residents in that area would be able to give their visitors to park in that area.
No, there will be passes. Okay.
So allow me to. She doesn't care about 135 and 123rd. Mm-hmm. She's talking about her neighborhood. Right. Yeah. So let's now apply this to the area of Northeast 9th Avenue and 124th Street. So if they wanted to create their own residential parking sticker, et cetera, we haven't put all those standards in place yet. Can they?
Yes, and again, it would depend on which area, what you want. So whatever the problem is, we'd be able to address it here. So if it's nighttime parking, then we could restrict nighttime parking. If it's daytime parking, we can restrict daytime parking. If it's we don't want people who live in that condominium coming into this residential neighborhood, then those people from that condominium won't have these stickers and they wouldn't be able to park in that area.
Oh, okay. I want to know outside people overflow from someplace else, come in and park, on your neighborhood. Right. Okay. So.
And again,
thank you.
one more time, this doesn't create any of those districts. This is just the enabling ordinance that would allow us to do that in the future. Okay. So all of the definitions and what we're actually going to be doing, that'll come up later, and you all would approve those districts when they come to you.
Mr. Mayor, if the public hearing is closed, I'll move approval.
I don't know what are we approving for. I'm lost.
So let me, do you want to do a description again? You want me to do it? Because my voice sounds like heck, but here's what's happening, Alex, Councilman DeSume. On Northeast 135th Street, east of Biscayne, Arch Creek East neighborhood. That whole area should not have been built the way it's been built.
Got it.
There's not enough parking on the street for the people who live there. Mm-hmm. And people who live in the condos on the south side, who have their own parking garages, are being a little lazy, and instead of parking in their own building, they're just parking on the street. And then as Mr. Cazot said, we even have people who are parking commercial vehicles on the street. As a result, nobody knows which cars belong to which people. Nobody knows if they're there legitimately or not legitimately, if they're commercial or not commercial. What we're talking about doing is creating a parking permit situation where Building A would have a green permit, I'm just making this up right now. Mm-hmm. Building B would have a red permit, and then you start to know where the cars are from and whether or not they're there legally. Right now, I used to live in the townhouses on the north side of the street. People would park in front of my townhouse who weren't me, and I couldn't even park in front of my own house because they parked there and then walked into the condos on the south side. So we're trying to come up with a creative way to sort of police it a little bit.
Okay.
What about the public parking?
If there's down by the preserve, there's 6 or 7 spots. Yeah. I don't think we're looking to
anybody
can
park there
unless it was overnight parking.
Yeah, you could restrict it. This is using a bunch
for
of
that one. I'm talking about.
Yeah, we could set up something there, and then we'd have police go by at night, and if someone illegally parked there that didn't have the appropriate sticker, they would be ticketed and possibly towed.
That's when you're gonna be no night parking there.
Well, there's no night parking there now.
Okay. Technically, the park is closed.
What you could do is, because there's limited parking there, you could open parking there at night, but only for residents that have the parking sticker.
Okay.
So it gives you a lot of opportunities to try to fix that issue.
And we can iron out all those details at future hearings. Okay. Right now, we're just trying to create the legislation that allows us to talk about that, because right now, it's not even described in our
We're
codes.
not addressing just that area. It's the entire
No,
city.
this could apply citywide.
Like 127 by the red, white, and blue.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That 127 between 6
So
and 5.
this is only for commercial, or this is also residential?
It's
to
areas,
regulate
parking areas.
the way we want people to park.
Okay, because I'm okay with supporting that, but when he said it's throughout the city, I'm
the possibility of establishing one anywhere in the city.
Oh, okay. But right now,
it's not. We're not establishing any
Okay.
right now. We're giving ourselves the ability to establish.
Okay.
That's when if there's an area we feel like.
No,
we
that's
need to
fine. I'll
address
support that because I think that addressed that area, 9th Avenue, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay,
And
thank
also
you.
127 and 6, right?
We can go deal with all of them.
Okay.
So I've moved approval, assuming public hearing was closed, Mr. Mayor.
I second.
Mayor, did you have public hearing on this item? Yeah. Okay, so I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve tab G. That motion was seconded by Vice Mayor Bieneme. Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Desiree,
Yes.
Mayor Joseph, Councilman Galvin,
Yes.
and Councilwoman Keys.
Yes.
Item passed with a 5-0 vote. Tab
The next item is 9C, right? No, that's the section.
Tab H, Mayor.
Hmm?
The next item is Tab H.
Which is the quasi judicial item, right?
Yep.
Now, I just want to give a last opportunity for people who wants to be heard on the item H. On item H, this is the time. If you want to be heard on the item, you have to fill out a card because we're gonna swear you in. Did you need a card? Well, the card is the swearing. Oh, okay. She wants a card. We'll try to keep the drama to the minimum.
Tanya, you're the new IT person. So you focus on the computer.
No position? Okay.
Get those nerds from the back to come fix it.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Clerk.
Oh. Tab H, proposed quasi-judicial resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving an application for a conditional use permit in substantially the attached form, allocating 175 residential units from the primary pool of 2,438 remaining floating residential units and 31,053 square feet from the pool of 750,000 square feet for non-residential use, reserved for use within the Neighborhood Redevelopment Overlay (NRO) district for a proposed mixed-use development featuring 175 senior apartments, retail, office, and event space on the one. 95, I guess that's 1.95 acre real property, generally located at 950 Northeast 124th Street and specifically identified with Miami-Dade County folio number 06-2230-040-0020 in accordance with Article 4, Division 4, Section 4-205B and Section 4-305 and Article 3, Division 4, Sections 3-402 through 3-407 of the City of North Miami Code of Ordinances, Chapter 29, entitled Land Development Regulations, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. That was tab H.
Thank you. For the record, Tanya Wilson with Community Planning and Development Department. This is a request for a conditional use permit review. This is a continued item, but there have been several changes on the proposed project, so I'm going to walk the council and the public back through the project specifics so you can be acclimated with what the request entails. The request, again, is for 175 dwelling units, as well as 31,053 square feet of non-residential square footage from the NRO pool. This is for the site with address 950 Northeast 124th Street. Property is currently zoned public use, and it has a future land use designation of community facility. It also has a zoning, a neighborhood overlay district overlay zoning in addition to the underlying zoning that's designated on the site. The current size is 1.95 acres in size. That's 84,763 square feet in size. And because it's located within the NRO, the property is allowed to have mixed use on site with a density of 90 dwellings per acre. I just want to point out in terms of the project changes, initially the council recalled that this project had contemplated assisted living facility and ALF component in the prior submittal. That has since been removed. There's also a reduction in the retail square footage that's being proposed of 700 square feet in terms of the reduction. Prior amount for the retail composition was 8,925 square feet, and the applicant is also looking to have an increase in office space as a part of this proposal. So there's a 12,000 square feet introduction of office use that was not in the prior submittal. There's also a 3,600 square feet retail space that's contemplated. In terms of the changes with the removal of the ALF and the inclusion of office space and reduction in retail, there's also a reduction in the traffic trips that are being generated from this project. So looking at the project itself, as I mentioned before, is proposed for mixed use with 175 elderly housing units. There's also a 5-level parking garage. It's contemplated with 220 parking spaces. In terms of the transitional standards that are within the code, built within the code, you'll notice from the site plan that's included in the packet that there are several levels that are being proposed with the project. Starting with 123rd Street, there's a 3-story structure, and then there's an increase in terms of the grade that you'll see in the buildings up to 6-story, and then the highest level you'll see at 7 stories is facing 124th Street. There's landscaping that's included on the perimeter of the property, as well as interior landscaping. And there's...
Hold on a second. Apparently there's no picture on the screen.
Oh, it's not coming into the feed. Okay, so I'll continue because there are additional slides that have the actual site plan that's built in. And then in terms of the setback requirement in the code requires that all the properties that are along 123rd Street be set back 35 feet. So you'll see a promenade that's being proposed in that area along 123rd Street. There's also a height restriction in that area that the property cannot be greater than 55 feet in height, although the NRO itself allows for 110 feet. So you see that there are inherent transition standards that are built into the code to ensure that there is that smooth transition between the lower density residential up to the higher density and then over into the commercial spaces. There's also underground utilities that are being proposed as a part of this project, and it contemplates 15%, at least 15% of workforce housing as a part of the proposal. So looking at the project attributes, there's also an economic analysis that's required as a part of the submittal. So I'm just going to pull out a few salient points that were provided as a part of that analysis. It anticipates that over 239 short-term construction jobs will be created as a result of this project. It's also anticipated that 0.17 million in permit and impact fees will be generated. There's 99 direct and indirect full-time jobs, annual jobs that are anticipated from the project. In terms of the tax impact, the ad valorem tax impact is $890,000 in annual ad valorem tax that will be brought in as a result of this project. $160,000 in total sales taxes collected, just to give you an idea of the economic impact of this type of mixed-use project if approved tonight. So in terms of the process itself, you will see the project again at the site plan stage. If approved as a permit, the code requires that the site plan has to be reviewed and approved by this board before the developer could move forward for building permits. For the conditional use permit itself, it's only good for 18 months. So once a permit is approved, the idea is that there's progress, they're moving forward towards the building permit process. If not, if it expires, then they won't be able to move forward. In terms of review, it's also reviewed by police and fire and other outside county agencies under the DRC process and the building review process. In terms of the project certification itself, the developer is proposing LEED certification, so it's looking to incorporate certain energy conservation elements and as well as green elements throughout the entire project. This concludes START's presentation at this time.
Thank you very much, Madam Director. Okay, we have about 15 cards. That means, oh.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I thought you presented already, like 3 or 4 times.
Well, I have 3 times. If I may first introduce myself. John Della Gloria, law office is at 1065 Northeast 125th Street. Here on the project are two of the owner-developers, Mr. Mo Yagubi and Marcelo Tenenbaum. Joan Armstrong Coffey is co-counsel. She is with the Ackerman law firm. Mr. Frankel will go over many of what Ms. Tanya Wilson has already stated. But before we begin, I just want to hand out to the council, the clerk, and everybody else. There's 119 petitions in support of the project. These petitions are from every single district in the city. 30% of them are from this district where the project is being built. From Keystone, Sans Souci, all the way down to 17th Avenue, all the way down. People have signed these petitions, and I want to give them to the council now. Petitions for the council, the manager, and the city attorney. Yes, the originals are in green. You're welcome. While you're perusing those, as you know, we have now come in front of the council for the third time. We have held either 4 or 5 public meetings. And the plan that you're going to be seeing this evening will, in some respects, reflect what the council has requested, and some changes have been made regarding the neighbors' concerns. I just want to touch on really one point, well, 2. Parking has always been a tremendous issue that has been raised consistently. For the record, our parking study has been reviewed by the city's consultant, and the city's consultant has agreed that we are providing more parking than currently required based on the development. The other point that has always come up is that this is zoned PU property. The city cannot zone this PU property because you cannot give that designation to private property. And so, even though the map may show it as PU, that designation cannot stand. We're going to make a rather streamlined presentation. The council is well aware of what this project looks like. Mr. Frankel is going to go over some of the changes, and then it'll be opened up to the public.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Tanya, for that great summary of the project. Happy New Year to everybody. If I haven't seen you since December, welcome back, Scott. This is really an exciting project for the architects and for the developer, of course. And it's been a project that's evolved over 3 years. As John mentioned, we've been before you for the CUP approval 3 times. And we've had many, many meetings over the 3 years in 2017, 18, and 19 with the planners. We've had terrific input from the planners and on planning issues as well as even architectural and open space issues. And we also had 5 neighborhood meetings, community meetings, 2 of them in 17, 2 of them in 2018, and the last one being January 9th of this year. And as a result, the project has evolved and has been enhanced. So we're grateful for those types of opportunities to meet with the community and with the planners and make the project better, which it clearly has. The changes were really about mitigating the neighbors' concerns of overbuilding, and the result was that we have significant reduction now of the project in massing in scale and in heights of the buildings. By eliminating the ALF as one of the components and other strategic placements of the 3 residential buildings, which also have commercial and other components, we've been able to maintain significant open space on the site. The site is approximately 84,800 square feet, 1.95 acres, and we've maintained 27,840 feet, which is 32.8, almost 33% of the site is literally open from the ground to the sky. In addition to that, we've added about 13,000 feet of area between the property line and the curb, the roads, on all 3 streets, 124th, 10th Avenue, and 123rd. So if you add all that up together, it's urban improvements and urban open landscaped areas of about 41,000 square feet. The ordinance requires a minimum for this type of project of 5,000 feet to be open, or 50 square feet per unit, which equates to like 8,700 square feet. So again, we're at 27,800 of our own property, and we're really proud of that notion, of that whole idea. The program still maintains a true mixed-use development, the housing being the most important component. Of course, as Tanya summarizes, 175 apartments. 85% of those are to be local residents in need of housing that has mixed types of units and for mixed incomes, and residents of age 55 and older. 15% of those 175 units, or 27 units, will be set aside strictly for affordable workforce housing for persons of age 55 and older. Just to summarize the housing before I show you any plans, there's a small building on 123rd Street, which used to be 6 stories. It's now 3 stories, with only 29 foot 8 inches in height to the roof of that building. On 10th Avenue, there's a 6-story component, which maxes out at 55 foot in height. And then 124th Street, there's a 7-story component, which at one time was 10 stories. So we've scaled this all way down to 3, 6, and 7 as the maximum 65-foot height, even though the NRO allows for 110 foot in height. The other components that were mentioned, again, there's retail below the north building, which is the 124th Street, 8,925 square feet. We have a new component of professional office space along 10th Avenue and around the corner on 123rd, which we think would be great for medical uses, being that you have the St. Catherine Hospital across the street and then the nursing home and so forth. So there's 12,000 feet of professional office space. And then we added a new component, which is an air-conditioned event space, which is available for cultural uses, assembly uses by the community. It would be used as well as residents in the building, but it would be used on a reservation basis. It would be maintained and managed by the owners, the developers of the property. Of course, there's that freestanding garage, which is totally cocooned by landscaping and buildings on 3 sides. So you will not see this garage from any of the right-of-ways. And it has 220 spaces in it. It has a rooftop green roof of 12,350 square feet, which is for recreational uses and gardens for the apartments above the garage. The most important point of that garage is that the access, ingress and egress, is only on 124th Street, so none of the cars that will be parking in that garage or exiting that garage will exit onto the pedestrian ways of 10th Avenue nor 123rd Street, but only 124th Street. We believe that with all these changes in the composition that we have, and by the way, I want to introduce Gladys Risco, my project manager. She's helped me through everything. Now she's going to help me show you the buildings because we forgot to bring the easels. But the first one, hold it a little higher. Okay. As you saw before, this is the setup on the entire site. We believe that this composition, it will be a microcosm of mixed uses and vitality for this neighborhood on one single block in this downtown urban community. So just to recap again, 123rd has a very large promenade that goes from the building to the curb.
Mr. Mayor, we need you to stay on the microphone.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Now, describing the promenade on 123rd Street. It's similar to the park and promenade that you have south of Villa Maria in St. Catherine's Hospital. And it literally connects visually to that. All the street trees that were there, many oak trees and a few other trees, I believe there's about 9, we're keeping them exactly where they were. And this promenade is 56 feet deep to the curb. It's 35 feet deep to the property line. And it has an abundance of hardscape, landscape, benches for seating and gathering, and art elements. The art elements we know will be commissioned by artists under the guides of the city's Art and Public Places Committee. They will literally designate the art. We can show you one rendering. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah. This particular rendering depicts the image of the building and the hardscape and landscape of the 123rd Street Promenade. As you see, there's an abundance of colors, landscape materials, some art elements that we would like to bring along the courtyard. Incidentally, that event space, which is down here on 123rd, is 3,600 feet of interior. It's another 2,500 feet of outdoor courtyard, which could be all used by any event that occurs for the community. There's a main entrance to the residential building that you see the canopy there on 123rd, and then it continues to the corner. There will be another entry to the professional office space at the corner. So that's really the image of the project. The only other thing I wanted to mention to you is that the units are very diverse and accommodating to be for mixed income levels, market levels. There's 19% of them are studios, which equates to 24 units. And excuse me, the 39% are one bedrooms, which equates 39 units are one bedrooms, 22% of the project, and 59% of the project will be two bedrooms with 102 units. So that's really what we have. We've got a lot more boards if you want to see them, or you have any questions about any floor level or any elevation of the project, or where we're showing the open spaces for the basic open space for the building, the pedestrian promenades along 124th and 10th and 123rd Street, and then the additional urban space that we show on between the property line to the curb. At this point, we can open it up to questions or the public.
Well, if you finish, we're going to open it to the public.
Yes.
And then we can understand that we can always come back to answer questions.
Right.
We have about 15 cards. 15 individuals have signed to speak on the item. 2 minutes will be awarded to every single person who come up and speak. So please try to gather your thoughts and be as concise as possible. First person is Miss Valerie Holt.
Good evening again. My name is
The
Valerie
second
Holt.
person?
I live at 1050 Northeast 122nd Street. The developer's new
I'll do that
proposal
next
now
week.
includes a rental commercial event space along the residential, which is 2-story duplexes, on 123rd Street. The 3,600 square foot facility is in comparable size to the Gwen Margolis Community Center, which does serve this function, and that's only a couple blocks away. Area residents and potential renters are not going to rent this space, for a small group of 5-10 people. Doesn't make sense. The common sense expectation is that the rental of this space will be for hosting larger groups, could be 50, 100 people. Very likely catering, equipment trucks, music, bands, perhaps alcohol consumption, and additional traffic will naturally follow this. We're asking that the developer lowers the building along 10th Avenue by just 1 story and eliminate the event space, moving the units from that 10th story, 10th Avenue to that area, making it all residential. They already have 3-story residential across there, and then the event space. This would make it very compatible to the adjacent families, and it would still all be 3 stories. This allows the developer to get what they feel they must have in order to build, and the residents what they feel would be more acceptable to the neighborhood. We're not asking for outrageous stuff. This does seem like it could be a good compromise. And I just have to add one thing. When Ms. Wilson gave her presentation, she left out the 7-story on 124th Street. Maybe a small thing, but that's a 7-story building that they did not address. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Dania. Is it Foligno or Foligno? Foligno. Thank you. Sorry about that. The next person also after her will be Mr. Holt, Robert Holt. Please go to the next mic so we don't. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
Okay.
I live, just recently bought a house within the last year at 950 Northeast 123rd Street, so I'm directly across the street from this building. My main concern was parking and will always be parking. I am all about for affordable housing, for senior living, for all of the things that the majority of this building provides, but similar to which was spoken about by the person before me, the event space, being a professional in hospitality myself, it is very concerning for a space that large, especially on 123rd Street. You do have a lot of different activities that are going to go on, and they need parking, and the 220 parking spaces are for those individuals that actually live in the apartment building. So in addition, traffic is a concern. Living on 123rd, I know you did traffic analysis and everything. The traffic circle will help, but I was wondering if there's any looking into speed bumps maybe on 123rd, because they do go very fast. Even UPS, FedEx, I mean, they're just flying down the street. So that's all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Robert Holt. I live at 1050 Northeast 122nd Street. I'm opposed to this size of this facility and the traffic it's going to bring. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eduardo Santos Lima and James T. Garrett.
Good evening. My name is Eduardo Santos Lima. I live at 1030 Northeast 122nd Street. I would like to bring to your attention that to date there has been no responses to several questions raised in emails from numerous members of the South Sonoma Association. Also, there have been requests to the city staff to clarify and correct misleading information provided in official and non-official meetings concerning this project. This lack of response may constitute a violation of the Citizens' Bill of Rights, Chapter 2, entitled Truth in Government, according to Money Code, which states the following: no county or municipal official or employee shall knowingly furnish false information or any public matter, nor knowingly omit significant facts when giving requested information to members of the public. The misleading information comes directly from recorded council meeting. How can then Table 8 be voted today? Please, where is the ethical transparency and legitimacy of this vote? I humbly and respectfully request the council members vote no on this project until the situation has been remedied. At least voting should be tabled so that all requested questions could be answered, requested clarifications provided, all misleading information corrected. I am concerned that ignoring this could create a potential violation of the Citizens' Bill of Rights and the truth in government of the city of North Miami. I kindly invite the people that are against this project to stand up. I kindly invite the people that are against to stand up, please. And I would remind that prior, it's on record, the adjacent neighborhood give to records a petition with 186. And this is the adjacent neighborhood. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. The person after James will be Miss Johanna Rose. Go ahead.
Jim Garrett, 11610 North Bayshore Drive. Originally, I was against this project because it was the density. The heights on the apartment building. We had an ALF on here. We had a parking garage, and originally, I believe it was 3 stories of townhouses or something in the back on 123rd. However, the developer, the architect, the legal counsel have met with several residents. We've had several meetings, including one over at Griffin Center, where these people have listened to our concerns and they have adjusted their plans. These plans are now in front of us, and it is a major revision to the original plan. Tonight, we're sending a message to other developers in other communities, north of us and south of us. The development is up here at Little River. They're looking at this vote, and they're seeing if this city is going to be moving forward, or we're going to stay back to being 2-story funeral homes, tattoo parlors, and other ventures. We need to approve this. It provides jobs in our community. Look at the amount of jobs. It provides in tax revenue almost over $1 million in sales tax and property taxes, which then the manager can start working on reducing our millage rate. If this project goes through, and when the other project off of Biscayne at 123rd Street behind Walgreens, and the other project that we're talking about up there on 130th would need some changes, and we can start developing some of the parking lots on Biscayne Boulevard. We can start moving this city forward. We can start doing some of the cool things that we need to do instead of having an austerity budget. I will urge the council to vote in favor of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person will be Miss Iliana. Sorry if I mispronounce your last name, but I think it's Albarang. Is it? Yes. Oh.
Hi, my name is Joanne Rose, and I live at 925 Northeast 121st Street. Paris is a beautiful city. Have you ever wondered why? It has no buildings higher than 5 stories. Someone back in the 19th century designed the city the way it is now, and Paris city planners were smart enough to keep it that way. Same thing with Amsterdam, no buildings over 5 stories. And that is what makes these cities beautiful, and it draws visitors from all over the world. These cities are beautiful. In these cities, people, are where people want to be. And where people are, to those who want business development, where people are, business will follow. Yet our city is on the verge of approving a blatantly overdeveloped project, squeezing into less than 2 acres, with a 7-story building towering over everything else, and in fact changing the city's skyline, eating into one of the few pretty residential neighborhoods left in the city. Must we destroy the character of our neighborhood just to bring business development to our city? This development may have its merits, but not in the place where it is proposed. It feels like the city has turned its comprehensive plan into mere window dressing, and in its desire to attract development, any development, it has stretched its own rules and regulations like a rubber band to let the developers slip in bonus unit after bonus units. This is not smart development. This is desperate development. I urge the council not to approve this project in its current form. Thank you.
Thank you. The one coming after Ms. Albarran will be Ms. Alina Medina.
Hi, Ileana Albarran, 849 Northeast 121st Street. City staff has prepared a report that indicates how developers believe that they're meeting the criteria for obtaining bonus units. It is at the discretion of the City Council to find if the criteria are being met in substantial form. You can approve the conditional use permit and grant only a portion of the bonus units. It is your responsibility to hold high standards and ensure the current residents are not bearing the burden of transplanting a new community without obtaining any benefits. Currently, 10 bonus units are being granted for the provision of bike racks. That's wonderful. But I ask you, Councilman Alex Desilme, are they meeting the criteria for obtaining 10 bonus units for an internal bike and pedestrian circulation system, When I think of an internal bike and pedestrian circulation system, I think of a large property. I think of FIU and riding my bike from one building to the other. This plan has a path that allows access to bike racks from the interior and the exterior. Does this count as an internal bike and pedestrian circulation system? Or is that criteria set for a much larger property? Should they receive 10 bonus units for improved pedestrian way connecting to the nearest arterial? Does an entrance to a building garage on 10th Avenue and Northeast 121st 4th Street count as an improved pedestrian way connecting to the nearest arterial, 125th Street? Will a car drive from 124th Street through the garage and out 10th Avenue to then go to 125th? I don't think so. Should they receive 6 bonus units for a pedestrian plaza? Does a fountain located on a corner of 2 streets with a mere 10-foot setback count as a pedestrian plaza? Should we grant 4 units for recreational amenities? The recreational amenities are on the rooftop and only accessible to occupants of the building. If developers get bonus units for recreational amenities, what benefits do existing residents get? These are a total of 30 bonus units that we're asking you not to grant the developers.
Thank you. The person after Ms. Medina will be Ms. Iracema Pires. Is it? Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Alina Medina, 1270 Northeast, 124th Street. I just think if this conditional use permit is granted, what is the message you're sending to potential buyers of residential homes in this neighborhood? We all want growth with measure and in consideration of the people who live here. The people who live in this area are going to be permanently affected by the height and the traffic that this building is going to bring. I think if we work together, maybe we can get it to, reduce all these inconsistencies and work to get to a point where we can have this done and everybody can be happy, more or less. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Iracema Pires. I live
Sorry,
in
excuse me. The one who's going to be coming after you will be Miss Mary. Oh, you're going to have to help me with this one. Mary Schoenwalter. Is it?
Schuweiler.
Sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, my name is Iracema Pires. I live in 810 Northeast 123rd Street. I've been since from the beginning 3 years with this project, and there are petitions that we gave to the council. There are the developers. They gave petitions from people that live far from where this construction is going to be. And I think we as a resident, all we asking is for the council to reduce from 7-story building to less than that, because they only show 3-story buildings, how beautiful it is. This project on developers, they always started in one way, and as the years are going through, it will dilute it and will turn to something else. I live in 123rd. To get out of my house, the car is speeding, and it's really crazy. So with a building with 7-story building, it's going to be even more crazy. So we live in the area, and we would appreciate it if the council would listen to us more than the developers. They are making money, yes, they are bringing a lot of things for the city, but we are going to be the ones taking the burn. We are going to be the ones taking all whatever is left, because after all, you're all going to your houses and you're not here where we are. So please listen to us, residents. We support you to put you where you are. We are the ones paying for the salary of all of you with our taxes. So I think we should be listening more than the developers. Thank you.
The person after Ms. Schuwalter? Mr. Joseph King, to the next mic. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Mary Schuweiler, and I live at 1070 Northeast 122 Street, North Miami. And I would like to bring to your attention the fact that in council's report received by you all tonight, there is an issue that needs further analysis, and that is parking. Quoting staff report, quote, without any parking adjustments as provided for in sections 5-1401 and 5-1402, the project would require 263 parking spaces. A revised parking analysis provided by TrafTech and reviewed and approved by the city's traffic consultant indicates that the proposed revised development will require between 199 and 220 parking spaces. The newly designed project provides 220 parking spaces on site. But a simple calculation as follows shows that the parking is not adequate. 220 parking spaces minus 175 spaces, remembering that individuals over 55 require only one parking space per dwelling unit. That leaves only 45 parking spaces to accommodate a 3,600 square foot event center plus visitor parking plus professional offices plus retail, etc. This is shared parking, and so totally unrealistic. It is clear that parking will not be contained on site at this facility and rather will overflow into the neighborhoods. So I ask that some time be spent on evaluating this. I would also ask that the council, as per its own Resident's Guide to Quasi-Judicial Process, disregard Mr. De La Gloria's presentation of petitions he claims are in support of his project. If the city must make its decision based only on the testimony before it and cannot consider anything outside the public hearing, it cannot consider these petitions. The demonstration of quote-unquote popular support is not supposed to be taken into consideration. I would say that what he presented is supposed to be a demonstrative show of what he conveys as being popular support, but I would remind as well that those individuals are not here giving testimony, and they do not live nor reside, nor will they be directly affected by this development. Thank you.
Okay, you're going to be followed by Mr. Gabriel Chirini and then Miss Julia Chirini.
Hi, I'm Joseph King. I'm at 955 Northeast 120th Street. And this project is not in alignment with the comprehensive plan, and I beg you to vote no, please. Thanks.
That's it?
Good evening. My name is Gabriele Guerrini. I'm living in 1035 Northeast 102nd Street. We was reading all what you publishing in the internet. It really doesn't match what they propose. They show a beautiful picture tonight for a 3-story building or whatever, but we don't really think it's the truth. Also, the bonus unit that they ask, we just ask to reduce the density because we're gonna tremendously affect for this building. Thank you. Please vote no.
Good evening. My name is Julia Guerini, 1035 Northeast 122nd Street, North Miami, Florida, 33161. Council members and mayor, before you allocate all 175 bonus units the developer is asking for, have you really truly read through the comprehensive plan, the NOMI master plan, the action plan, the LDRs to get an idea of what the vision of North Miami truly is? It's very clear. It's very obvious. You will be the ones deciding if this project is in alignment with the comprehensive plan, and you will be the ones deciding if the bonus unit criteria are truly being met. I'm just a little bit worried because just shortly before this meeting, I've heard council members not really knowing what the criteria truly is, and that worries me. Remember, the LDRs are written very loosely, so they can be interpreted by the city staff one way, another way by the residents. So at the end, it's at your ultimate discretion if they truly are meeting all the criteria. The internal bike lanes as discussed by one of our neighbors. Does that make sense for such a small property? I really don't think so. And you should consider that because there was a reason why these LDRs were written, not just to provide bonus units for a developer, but for an intent of that NOMI master plan. So I urge you, please, before voting on this, be certain that you can truly discern for yourself if this criteria is being met. So I urge you to not vote no to this project.
Okay. Is it Rosnawati Leo? The last name, you're going to help me with the last name? Winas. And Carmela Ferming.
Good evening. My name is Rosnawati Leowinas. My address is 955 Northeast 120 Street, Biskin Park. So this project is not in alignment the comprehensive plan. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carmela Furman, 12530 Northeast 4th Avenue. I think the pictures are beautiful. It does look like a very nice building. I do think it's kind of large for the space that's there, and like a couple of people have mentioned, that event space is as much as the city does need a nice event space that's not just one of the recreation centers. I think that that is probably something that should be reconsidered, just because of the amount of traffic that that will bring. And so the parking issue, which was already brought up, I think that's also something that really should be considered, because that can't remember what we just, you guys just discussed about being able to get permits for parking. That's probably something that that neighborhood will need, if it is that there isn't a large event space put there, so that at least only residents can park in those outside areas. So as much as I do like what it looks like, I just don't think the space and the location is really the best, especially since it does sit very far back from our main road, which is 125th. So it's kind of hidden in the back, and so you're just kind of bringing a whole new traffic situation to those back streets. That's all.
Okay. Of course, we save the best for last. Mr. Bill Prevatel. Don't you know you're the best?
I do not take
I
credit
shouldn't
for
have to
anything
call
like
your
that.
name.
I'm the
Huh?
Most consistent.
William Prevatel, 11950 North Bay Shore Drive. If I may express my appreciation and respect for the fellow citizens, many of which I am friends of, I appreciate their opinions very much. But I also, at the same time, very much marvel at this team, who has not only gone on for months, but for years on this particular project. And I'm really not quite sure how they do it. We wish in our city that the students succeed. We want all of them to have scholarships and to be successful. I think it should be that way with our projects in this city. I think we want to have, not to deflate the projects, but to have the wind in their sails so that they can be the most successful projects possible. Here we've had this team has met with citizens, with staff, with council repeatedly, so repeatedly. I don't know how they're still enduring this. I don't know if our public, our citizens, realize that the success of their neighborhoods really depends on the success of our individual projects, whether it's here or it's anywhere in the city. This project, as they have not broken ground. This has just been a money loss, a money pit so far. When they put in the foundations, it'll be a loss. When they build the first, second, third floor, it'll be a loss. At some point, it might start to turn to profit. That is, if the economy is in their favor. There's a great deal at stake here, a great deal at risk. This is a project that has so many nice features, far more impressive than anything else we have in this part of the city. And I think we should try to do our best to support it, not to deflate it, not to compromise it. Enough improvements, concessions, and alterations have been made. I'd like to see the council pass this as it's being presented. I think it will be to the benefit of our community. We will have jobs. We will have variety. It's mixed use. There are so many benefits to this. So many considerations have been given it. And these considerations have gone from this team to this neighborhood, to this city, to make it the best project possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Miss Marisol Medina.
Second best to last, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Marisol Medina, 1270 Northeast 124th Street. Like many of the neighbors, I've come in opposition of some of the setup of this project. We had 186 signatures, more than the people that are going to live there, requesting for this not to happen the way that it is presented. There's been no consensus on the setback and no change in the density. They have made modifications to try to accommodate parking. But that was also an obligation by the new rules that were set in prior to the project being completed. Yes, money is being spent, but also this is a huge endeavor for our entire city, not just those 170 that are going to live there. We're all going to have to bear the burden of having this in our neighborhood. Seeing it all the way from my house, many streets away, and many other things that have been presented. I rushed over here from school in order to speak to you guys. I hope that you guys feel strong with your decisions tonight and hear our voices. Thank you.
Okay. Public hearing is now closed. Now it's back in our courts, folks.
Not yet.
Under that, huh?
Not yet.
Back again?
We're allowed to have cross-examination.
Or to respond?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The only person I wanted to ask any questions of would be Ms. Tanya Wilson-Sejour. Thank you. And we're going to make it very brief. Could you please go over the criteria that the applicant has to meet in order for the bonus units to be allowed?
So the code under Article 4 provides a criteria for bonus allocation, not to exceed 90 dwelling units per acre. The first is that it has to have a LEED or nationally recognized building certification. The second one says that it has to have amenities on site, such as recycling receptacles or electric charging stations. The third one says a provision and maintenance of additional trees in areas identified as deficient within the North Miami Street Tree Management Plan. The fourth, neighborhood pedestrian connections between adjacent uses, including pedestrian public plazas along Northeast 23rd Street in this case. Fifth one is to improve pedestrian way connecting to the nearest arterial with wayfinding signage. The sixth, it's a sheltered bus stop within a quarter mile of the proposed development in accordance with Section 5-803 proposed along, and this is proposed along Northeast 124th Street. There should also be an internal bike and pedestrian circulation system. The eighth criteria says, excuse me, provision of bike racks for bicyclists. The ninth says proposed mixed use that's contemplated on the project. The 10th says project open space recreational amenities, at least 5,000 square feet or 50 square feet per unit, whichever is less. There should also be urban design, landscape, pedestrian, public plazas along all street frontages. The 12th says urban places of public assembly. The 13th, underground utilities. 14th criteria says structured parking with a pedestal. The 15th, structured parking, non-pedestal. 16th criteria says public art proposed and integrated into the public facade. And the 17th says there should be workforce or affordable housing, at least 15% provided as a part of the project.
I know that in your staff report you indicated that these matters have been accomplished. Did you study each and every one of these 17 criteria to determine whether the applicant is entitled to the bonuses that the code provides?
Yes, sir. Myself, as well as my city planner, my zoning manager, we also have an outside architect that we use through Sinalowski and Associates that also provided review and consistency to ensure that the criteria was being met.
Thank you. That's it. If you want to hear from our traffic engineer now, we can do that, or we can have her speak during rebuttal, whichever you prefer.
Let's do it now. Get it over with.
Okay. Susan Danielson is our consultant, and she's going to address the parking and traffic issue.
Good evening. My name is Suzanne Danielson. I'm associate with Traftech Engineering. I'm a professional engineer registered in the state of Florida. I have more than 30 years experience. Regarding parking, I'd like to remind you that in March of this year, we completed a parking study that was approved, was reviewed by your staff as well as your traffic consultant. It was approved. While city code, when you consider each land use individually, does require in excess of 263 spaces, your code, section 5-1403, does allow for shared parking, a shared parking analysis, and that is what we've conducted. Typically, when we do shared parking studies, they're done in accordance with criteria that's set forth by the Urban Land Institute, which is very comprehensive. Your code has a specific methodology for us to follow, and that is what we followed. And our analysis concluded that 220 spaces will be ample to support the uses that are proposed. And as for traffic, we did have a study approved in 2018. What you see before you today produces less traffic. And I can go into further detail if you'd like, but I can save that for a later in the evening if you prefer, regarding levels of service at the adjacent intersections.
I mean, if you're going to have more presentations, best that you just go right into everything. I mean, if you...
Well, I wasn't really going to, but we did study a number of intersections, signalized, both signalized and unsignalized, based on counts that we collected in the field. And we do show that during the AM and the PM peak hours, that acceptable operating conditions are going to be realized.
Okay.
And I'll be available for questions, too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Now, Mr. Attorney, that's it.
I believe they're done with the applicant's done with their presentation, sir. So it's.
You know, once it comes here, that's it.
That's it.
Then we get to vote.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
That was rebuttal. So close then.
Move. Just go. I mean, whatever you want.
I just want to point out a couple of things. Number one, this is during rebuttal, Jeff. The petitions that we gave you are petitions signed by every resident of the city, 30% of which are from the area where this project is being built. And, okay. And unless you have questions of me, that's it. Oh, one other thing. Those in favor of the project, would you stand up, please? I understand, but I want them to see this.
Well, the other side did it. All right, thank you very much. The meeting is still in session. So, who will speak first?
You want me to speak? First of all, I think we all need to, we all have the obligation to report who we've spoken to under the Jennings rule. And I have spoken to Mr. De La Gloria. I have not spoken to the developers, I think, in this year or in many months. And we did speak to several emails from residents, and we did have a meeting with the attorney, Ms. Wilson, Mr. Cook, Mr. Sori, yesterday. So I just want to disclose that. Question two, Ms. Wilson, through the mayor, to our attorney or Ms. Souchure, what are we voting on tonight? Are we voting on a site plan? Are we voting on parking? Or are we only voting on the density?
You're only voting on the bonus units through the conditional use permit.
Okay, so we're voting to give, they're requesting 175 units, and that is all we're voting on.
Correct.
So if that gets passed, the developer's still going to have to come to us with a site plan that may change again.
Correct. So
And-
there's a subsequent application that has to be filed for the site plan review, and that has to be brought before City Council for a vote.
Okay. And as I said, the first time we voted for this, I'm very, very aware and concerned with parking and spillover parking in our neighborhoods. And if a project does not meet the parking requirements, I will not approve it. So I'm going to say that. And I think one of the only things I do want to say is so many people said that a concession should be made regarding the setbacks. And I think that it was a tremendous concession that was made in 2015 when we first, during the comp plan, where most, and I don't want to be misquoted because I'm just by memory, I don't have the rules here, but I believe the setback for 123rd Street would have been 10 or 15 feet. And it would not have been even 25 feet, I don't believe. Right now, the PU, you said, has no setbacks.
Correct.
Okay. The developer agreed that if we did that, they would in fact agree to a setback of 35 feet. So I think they've done a very big setback. I also, and again, this is according to plans, and these can change. But right now, a developer would have the right to use the swale for off-site parking. And the developer has agreed multiple times to leave all of the oak trees in the swale. And we're, a couple years ago, I think they were going to use a few of those spaces for parking. They've landscaped it. There will be no parking on 123rd Street. And I think those are some nice transitions for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Next. In the queue, do we have a queue? No? Who's speaking?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following what the councilwoman who represent the district had to say, I just want to add a couple of comments prior to this. I had a lot of meetings with residents, but out of disclosure, I spoke with Mr. De La Gloria. At the same time, I spoke with some residents in regards to this particular project a couple months ago. I don't think well, maybe at the last meeting in January, I spoke to the developer at that meeting as well, and I spoke to the manager along with the deputy manager, the deputy attorney, and who else was present at that meeting on Friday, along with some residents. It was Friday or last week. I had a lot of discussion back and forth. It started in December. During the holidays, I had my first full meeting with some concerned residents that had some concern about the particular project. I normally would refer to the council person who represent the district out of respect. But as a commissioner who makes decision on the entire city, I felt that I needed to step in to learn not only more about the project, and subsequently after that meeting in December with some residents, I'm not sure of the number, but about maybe a handful of residents, and I listened and shared their concern, and I promised them that I wanted to have a transparency process in order for me to bring them together with the developers one more time. So between the winter break and the new year, we sat down with staff. We were back and forth with the residents. We were able to schedule a meeting, and at that time, I did not speak with the developer or any of the residents on the matter. So we did have a meeting. I think the first or second week of January. I'm not quite sure what's the date. It may be January 9th or something around there. We met at Griffin. It was a packed house. I would say close to 50 or more residents came together, and I listened, and a lot of us were surprised because prior to the meeting started, the developer had made a lot of changes to the concession that was made. But in December, while we were meeting with the residents, there were some things that we wanted to do. I told them that I wanted a better project. It's not that I was against or for, but I wanted to have a fair process, and I wanted to have a compromise where both sides nobody would be happy, but we'll get something. So prior to that, we had some discussion of what we wanted to see or what we wanted from the developer. At the January 9th meeting, the developer surprisingly had a lot of the things in place. So I felt that the project got a little bit better than it was from the first time. They dropped some components. They did some other things. I thought we were okay, to be honest with you. We were ready to move forward. That was the end of that. Couple weeks prior to this, one resident notified me that the item was coming up, which I did not know because I normally meet with the city manager every week on Tuesday, and that particular week he was out of town and we were not meeting. So they did inform me the project was coming forward, and then there was some other unresolved issues. And I did listen again to the residents to see what could, because I thought at the January 9th meeting or that week, everything was resolved. But they did have some concern and some doubts with staff and a lot of the stuff that has been said or something unrelating to the comp plan. So last week again, we did have another meeting with residents, with the manager, and I did promise the residents I'll have the legal and the city manager there and Ms. Wilson Sejour and her staff to answer questions because they are the professional with this. So we met again, and the questions that they had, I'm pretty sure I don't know if they were happy with the results, but I got some answers with, based on what staff was said, that everything was legal because the whole matter of the meeting was there was some stuff they didn't feel that the plan was relating to the comp plan, the way the downtown plan, and it went into other development plan and staff. And I asked the deputy attorney at that meeting if everything was checked as legal as being correct, which it was. So this became an issue that I have to, and my colleagues on the dais have to deal with on a different matter. I did say at the meeting on Friday that I was okay with the project as is after all these steps. And I said very clear, and the manager, I don't know if Ms. Walwyn is here and Tanya is here, I did say if there is a consensus of one thing that we could, at this late juncture, you wanted me to work on and see if we could do, which I think they have done more than enough, the developer, please let me know what it was. I did hear one or two things, but tonight I hear like 150 things versus what I would assume that one of consensus or, so it's just after folks, which I thought folks were okay with the project, but it was like, they don't want nothing there. They really don't have, they said they don't have issues with it, but when they come here, they say, well, we don't want 5-story, we don't want 2-story. I don't even know at this point what they want. So I would have hoped that there was a consensus among the residents. If it was something that you wanted the outdoor, I was hearing, and for the public use, that I could have advocated on, but I did not get that tonight. So I am comfortable with the plan as is, so that would be my decision for tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just have a quick question because tonight it seems like the concern of the residents are the density, the setback, and the outdoor facility for public use. And I did speak with the residents. And traffic. I did speak with the residents, and now tonight from doing public hearing, Eliana seems suggests that we eliminate 34 units. And does that mean you will be okay with 141 units? Okay, the first question is, Tanya Sejour just stated that what we are doing tonight is not the approval of the plan, right? We're not approving the plan. We are approving the bonus unit, right? That means if we move it from 175 to 141, will we agree on? Okay, that will be my suggestion to approve the the plan, if we move it from 175 to 141 units as bonus unit, maybe I will think about voting for it if that gonna please the resident.
Mr. Galvin?
No questions.
Okay. Well, no, I only have a few words to say. As most of you probably know, this item was, pretty much DOA the first time, dead on arrival. And a few months thereafter, I was approached by the attorney for the group, and asked me if I would consider bring the item back. So of course, we sat down and looked at what the citizens, the residents, were arguing. I mean, their arguments were very good arguments. That's why the developer listened and he went and did the changes that they actually did. And as a mayor of 60 plus, thousand of this city, and having had the opportunity to sit in the board of the TPO at the level of the county, where we know that there is a big revolution going on, transportation revolution, real estate, and not just real estate. Cities are being developed, anywhere from the south end of this county all the way to County Line Road. So North Miami, as we know it, sits, in a very plausible, area where the wave is going. I mean, the wave is going over us. So as a mayor, I feel like we shouldn't, sit idle and look at the wave going, and for us to not partake, in it and not be part of it. So we want to send the right signals to those developers. Otherwise, they're just gonna go up, elsewhere. For the past 5 years, when I first started, the only developer that actually came, that had been there in North Miami, was Carby developer. Then that became Sole Mia. And after that, everybody's been staying away because they try to come in, then they go to Board of Adjustment, Planning Commission, and everything, and they just get, refuted, by everybody, because everybody keeps telling them no, go elsewhere. North Miami is a bedroom community. We're happy with the way it is. We're trying to get people to drive 5 miles, 10 miles an hour, and that's just the way it's gonna be. Well, in Paris, I've been to Paris many times. They do not drive 10 miles an hour in Paris. And Paris do have buildings that are taller than 20 stories. Okay, I've been to many places in Paris, to Moulin Rouge, to Versailles. As a matter of fact, it's a place to go. So I would like to see the city of North Miami, grow and flourish. That's the reason I brought this item back. And I respect the fact that Miss Carol Keys, actually, changed her mind and looked into it. I mean, that's just the way it is in life. When you get to a point of difficulties and so forth, and you face very hard, decisions, you go back to the drawing board. She went and sat with the attorney and with the other people that she needs to talk to, and ask him to do the changes that needed to be done. Changes are not easy. I mean, it's very tough, to accept. But that's why, if there are more compromise, to make the compromises, and the compromises must come from both sides. That's why I told John, the attorney, make sure it's not really up to us. It's up to the people who pay taxes. They bought their properties, and they intend to go there. They want to stay in an area where things are not going to become a bother to them. Your neighbor is gonna be, there forever. So there is a compromise proposition, on the
Yes,
on the table. So I don't know if it needs to be fitted as an amendment, or how do we go about it? I don't know.
It's to move approval of the item with an amendment instead of 175 to downsize it to 141 units.
Okay, so do we go back to the developer, ask them if they would accept that, or what? How do we go about that?
I have a concern about the amendment because I don't know what the basis is for that. Remember, our code is specific on what the developer has to do to get those bonus units. The attorney just asked our planning director, did they meet those requirements? And she said yes. So you're now changing that, and I don't know what the basis is. I'm sure that that's what he's probably going to say. You can ask him, but to make that change.
Yeah, but Mr.
stating
City
the
Attorney,
basis-
we're here to vote yes or no, and we always can make change. That's what we are doing. That's our job. We understand what you're saying.
What's the basis of that?
That's my motion. My motion, instead of approving the 175 bonus unit, I change it to 141.
I understand.
Let them answer the question. Why you have to answer for them?
I was asked a question, sir. I'm answering the question.
He's trying to. He's trying to give us legal counsel.
The question you asked me, Mayor, is that they applied for 175 units. The city's staff has told you that they have met that requirement. You can ask them to reduce it, but there's going to be a question on why that reduction is being made.
That's my motion. My motion is to, instead of granted the applicant 175 unit, we want to downsize it to 141 units.
So, Mayor, would you like me to try to call a vote on his motion first, and if
But
it
he
fails?
says, but there is no second.
That's what I'm saying. So, okay, so I have a motion made by Vice Mayor Bien-Aimé.
You don't need to read it.
I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to ask if there's a second, and if there's no one says
No,
then it's all.
no.
So I have a motion made by Vice Mayor Bien-Aimé to approve item H with the amendments as he stated on the record. Do I have a second to that motion? That motion fails for a lack of second. Now, do I have a motion to approve tab H as presented?
I make a motion to approve.
I have a motion made by
bonus
Councilwoman Keys to approve tab H. Do I have a second to approve, a second to Councilwoman Keys' motion?
Second.
I have a second made by Councilman Dezume. Now, we're going to do roll call vote here. So, Councilwoman Keys, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Dezume, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Galvin, how do you vote?
No.
Mayor Joseph, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Bien-Aimé, how do you vote?
No.
Item passed with a 3-2 vote. Tab I, discussion regarding
Thank you.
administrative variance moratorium. That's tab I, Mayor.
Yes, it's a discussion sponsored by Councilman Galvin. Mr. Galvin.
So, just quickly, Mr. Mayor, at the last meeting, you guys voted on a moratorium on administrative variances while we go through a process to engage with the public and see if we should modify that. After that resolution was passed, the city attorney and I dealt with some of the after effects. What we realized was there needed to be a modification in order to properly continue to enforce certain provisions in the code. What that change is, and what we're asking you to do, is to revise your motion to allow for the moratorium, but also direct us to utilize the Board of Adjustment process as a means of curing any code enforcement citations that would have normally been cured via the administrative variance process.
Mr. Mayor, I guess if I might, the reason bringing this back tonight is that once we issued the moratorium a couple of weeks ago, staff at the direction of our city attorney simply stopped writing citations for anything that might have been covered under the administrative variance. That wasn't my intent, that we just say, well, yeah, that's an illegal truck. But we're not citing it because there's a moratorium. So that we can return to writing citations, we need to give the residents a course of appeal. Rather than them appeal to staff right now for administrative variances, they would have to appeal to the Board of Adjustment for their public hearing variance. So it still gives the resident a remedy to the problem, but it, sorry everybody, but it still leaves the administrative variance moratorium in place. And I hope that we'll only leave that in place another meeting or two so that staff can come back with a way that we'll handle this going forward. Thank you, Mr.
Okay. So does that mean we have to?
Sure, I'll move approval of the new language.
Second. Okay.
And if you're going before you vote, sir, you should open up the public.
Hold on, Jeff.
Well, it's a discussion.
Right. That's it. That's
right,
the
but
thing.
you're taking a vote. So if you're taking a vote, then you should open up the public.
1 second, Councilman Galvin.
I
don't have anything on here.
I'll remove my motion so that we don't have to have a vote and all of
Right,
that.
that's right.
I just hope the council would join me in giving consensus in just a general sense that staff move forward as
That's when
presented.
all the variants gonna go to before the Board of Adjustment.
Right, they would still go before.
Where do they go now?
They don't go anywhere because
They don't go anywhere?
We're not
Okay.
writing the citation, so they don't get a fine or a violation.
I would think we need to vote to undo the vote we took or modify the vote we took last.
So just say what the language. What would be your motion regarding tab I, Councilwoman Keys? What would you want to vote on?
That's Councilman Galvin.
I'll go back.
Councilman made the motion, which is okay.
I'll go back and make the motion again. Let's
Open
open up the can of worms. I'll move that we approve. This is tab I.
Discussion item is tab I.
I'll move that we approve tab I as presented, that we give direction to staff to continue to write violations for things that are in violation of our code, but to give the residents the remedy of going before our Board of Adjustment. Period.
Is that during our moratorium?
That's when all the variants gonna go to the board before the Board of Adjustment.
Right, this is
Instead of some, yeah.
This is during the moratorium.
Oh.
But I don't see why we can't lift that moratorium a lot quicker.
Would love to.
But
Okay, so I got Councilman Galvin's motion as stated on the record. The minutes are just going to basically have what Councilman Galvin said verbatim. Do I have a second to Councilman Galvin's motion?
Can I second for a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
We did this really quickly last time. We didn't give our attorney advance notice. I know you've had advance notice. Does this work for you?
it was on the agenda though, so
No, I get it, but little discussion. I want to make sure we're okay with this, that this is going to meet our intention, that people are still cited, but they do have a place to go, because there's a lot of people who are violating that don't really have any way of, mitigating their problem anyway. And I would just like to say, I would like to get our LDRs on these commercial vehicles and RVs, whatever. Would really love to get a resolution or ordinance as soon as possible, so we have some clarification of what we can and can't do. That's all.
yeah, and I would agree with the councilwoman. My moratorium wasn't that this was just something in 6 months we come back and say, well, council, what do you want to do? I'm hoping staff takes the initiative. The reason I wanted the moratorium is because we were administratively approving things that didn't meet our code, and the neighboring residents had zero idea that we were doing it and didn't get to express their opinions for or against. So by taking this out of the administrative hands and putting it in a public forum at the Board of Adjustment, that if you need me to come up with language, I will, but I feel like that's why staff makes the big bucks.
But you're still going to keep your motion.
Yes. Motion is still on the
So do I have a second to Councilman Galvin's motion?
seconded it.
That motion was seconded by Councilwoman Keys. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item.
There is no. Citizen Forum is coming.
You're voting now, Mayor, so you need to open it up.
No, they on Citizen Forum, they'll be able to express themselves.
You have to open it before you vote.
It wasn't, it's not a
Okay, so
resolution.
do they have to vote, no?
It wasn't a resolution. It wasn't published. It wasn't a published resolution.
Jeff?
It was published as a discussion.
Mayor, the way we conducted we've been conducting our meetings is that before an item is voted on, you open it up
We've
to
never had to open to public hearing when we have a discussion.
because you don't vote on discussion items. You've turned this discussion item into a vote, and so you should open it up to public hearing.
But I only turned it into a motion because you asked there to be a motion so
I
we could have a
understand.
vote.
Yeah.
I
Well, a
withdraw
vote-
my motion. Just guys, come up with a plan. Good gosh.
We have Citizen Forum coming up. Everybody's going to be able to say whatever it is they want to say.
Okay, so Councilman Galvin has withdrawn his motion.
No. Leave my motion. Leave my motion.
Okay, so
The
what are we
motion
gonna do?
passed.
If this isn't clear, okay, that would be good to hear you say right now.
Citizen Forum is now open.
Whoa, hold on. We got to vote, Mayor.
We did. We did. We just did.
I'm the guy taking the minutes. I didn't hear a vote. So
Try-
all that's what I'm saying. So all in favor of tab I, the motion made by Councilman Galvin on the record, and second by Councilwoman Keys. All in favor?
Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Item passed with a 5-0 vote.
Citizen Forum is now open. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Dylan Devilis. So I live in 1160 Northeast 137th Street, North Miami, Florida 33161. So the reason why I'm here, I take the days off from my job, so I came here because I always receive the letter from the city of North Miami for the Harley, for the legal dumping. So I'm a single woman, so every time, so they just come into the like a big sofa, big something trash. So I received the letter, so to clean it. So I think like it's not fair for me. I think city of North Miami should be responsible for that, to do something, either put the camera there if when whoever come in to dump the thing, so they can take the tag or whatever, so they can send them a ticket. So because of me, I already know if I have the big trash, so I have to put it on the front. I can't not put it out on the back of the alley. So I don't know why. So they send me the letter, so I have to clean it. If I don't, so they're gonna put the line on my house, so to pay. So I think.
Okay. They're gonna. That's it. Okay.
What's your address?
1160 Northeast 137th Street,
Okay.
North Miami 33161.
He's going to fix.
Let's clean up the ladies' alley and put a camera in there.
Don't say
Yeah,
that,
that's
Mr.
really
Mayor.
good.
People are putting in a bag. Yeah. Cool.
She's- she's
Madame.
reporting to us.
She's gonna.
She's doing us
Faut
a
parler
favor.
avec elle.
Jim Garrett, 11610 North Bayshore Drive. I want to congratulate this council tonight on its vote of 3-2 in moving the city forward. When I moved back down here in August of 2015 from Fall Church, Virginia, I lived down in Buena Vista, okay, north of the Design District at 4410 Northeast 2nd Avenue. I was on the Buena Vista Cafe food plan every day. I ate there at breakfast and dinner every night. I was right around the corner from Coy. That when the city of Miami started their road project on Northeast 2nd Avenue, right above the Design District, because the Robins did their portion from 36th Street to 41st Street. They have inched up, and what they did first was that the city did the mains. They did the water mains and the sewer mains first, all the way up in the stages from 41st Street all the way up to Little River Canal. Then they did the sidewalks and the lighting and the electrical, and then they did the paving. Have you gone down to? I know everyone has gone down to the new food hall down in Little River there, the Citadel. Now, if you go down 2nd Avenue from Little River to Northeast 41st Street, you will see a different neighborhood, a total different neighborhood that is reviving, and people and stores and retail complex and shopping centers are being redeveloped. We need to do the same thing here in this city. We need to start at 4th. When we do this, instead of doing like a little stretch, we need to go from 4th Avenue all the way to Biscayne Boulevard, and we need to replace our mains first, or water main and a sewer mains on 125th. Then we need to do the same thing that the city of Miami did: the sidewalks, the lighting, and then the streets. You don't do the streets before the pipes.
Why you didn't say 7th Avenue, Jim?
No, we need to do, because the first one is 125th. That's the oldest section of the town, of the city, and then 7th Avenue second. Thank you.
Oh, that's it? Citizen Forum still open?
William Prevotel, 11950 North Bay Shore Drive. We had some people visiting from up north that had planned on joining us for an extended period of time to make North Miami their permanent residence. Nadia and Roy Feldman, both of them are very engaging, wonderful couple. And Roy in particular, having graduated from Columbia University and Columbia Dentistry School and a PhD at Harvard, was one of the nicest people that I've ever come across. Unfortunately, on Friday, Roy entered the surf at Hallover, and even though he was a strong swimmer, was not able to overcome the riptide. And so we lost Roy on Friday. He was just in his 70s. The reason I bring this up is that I think it's a testament to North Miami that this couple of such great character and such great experiences and such actually found comfort in North Miami. We're planning on making it their legal residence, and I'm happy about that. Not happy to have lost Roy, but I hope without objection that he might be considered an honorary resident of North Miami posthumously. Thank you.
That's all we're moving.
Jessica Alston, 1140 Northwest 125 Street, Sunkist Grove. First, I just wanted to congratulate Mr. Cazot, because I think it was very wonderful, your efforts and your enthusiasm towards the Clean City project. And I love to see your eyes shine the way they did when you was explaining that project. But I just stand today just as an observation that I did have the opportunity to see them come through the streets with a sweep, I don't know what you call it. And they came through with their blower machines and rakes, but they did not have bags. So they blew garbage together, but they didn't collect it, which means they left it there. If you use the blower and you blow it in the middle of the street, it's going to eventually land on the neighbor across the street in front of their house. So I just would like to see, when I saw it was on 125th Street between, I think it was 9 and 10. It was about a few weeks ago. I was really surprised. And I would just like to see that they include bags and that they bag up the leaves that they collect and blow and take it with them rather than just merely redistribute it. Thank you.
Okay, Citizen Forum is now closed. If we have any reports from... No?
From staff or from us?
From us.
Oh, okay. Anyone want to go first? Oh, okay. I have two things I wanted to bring up, Mr. Manager. The last meeting that we had prior to this, there was an item where regarding I mentioned it to you, the buffer. After that meeting, I had several concerned citizens, not necessarily Mr. Mendina. I want them to think I had nothing to do with Mr. Medina, but other residents who lives around that area and other in other district who expressed to me that they would like for me to at least reconsider some of the stuff. And what I did tell them, I listened, and then I went and they showed me one of the questions that I asked was the property that was there now. They told me it would be grandfathered in. Their concern is more of another spot master coming in, the whole 9 yards. So what I did tell them that I would like to see is 15 is to remain the setback of 15. I didn't think it should be 25, and then I would definitely be in favor. So I'm asking if we would reconsider to bring the item back on the next one, Mr. Attorney. Okay.
If you're requesting, yeah, we bring.
Yes, thank you.
That's it. Any other reports from council? I received this copy. This is supposedly the recommendations that were made by the people who made the audit period, the 2013 through April 17. I don't know whether I'm too late on this or whatever. Apparently there were like 30 recommendations. I just got it yesterday, so I don't know.
So you're referring to the correspondence from the state auditors? They're just coming back. They just wanted us to give them an update on where we were with all of the recommendations, and we already sent that. We submitted that to them already.
Yeah,
and they'll be coming in probably in the next 3 or 4 weeks to just. It's the follow-up that was required by the first audit.
Yeah, okay. See, I wasn't aware that, because they recommended that you responded to them by the end of last month, I believe.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
We I don't know if you recall, we did try to get a meeting together with you and myself to do the entry interview, but you were unavailable, so we went ahead and had the meeting. We submitted the required documents that they wanted, and we're now just waiting for them to give us the schedule to start.
But have you discussed with any members as to how you responded to them? I would like to know what the responses were.
The responses are the same ones that we responded when we initially got the report. It was just to make sure they wanted to ensure that the things that we committed to doing, that we've actually done.
Because there are two of them that necessarily that caught my eye. Number 15, where they say city expenditures were not always supported by fully executed purchase orders or contracts, prior to payment, and documentation was not always available to demonstrate the public purpose for the expenditures. The reason why the spending was done. And also there was a mention, number 23, the P cards expenditures were not always properly approved adequately or for allowable amounts or purposes. So, and for that, I don't know how the other members, will see that. What I've seen done, because we have to admit there is a lot of traveling, done, by administration here. A lot of traveling. A lot of times you're looking for people, before you know it, they away. And as a mayor, I don't even know. I don't know if other council members know, but I don't most of the time.
But me too.
And if we could be a little bit more involved as a council as to when people in administration, travel, and not just from the day before, but at least a reasonable time in advance. As a mayor, as a vice mayor, as a council member, I would like to have a good, notice as to when, let's say, deputy manager, deputy attorney, city attorney, when people are traveling, I would like to know, I mean, we paying you guys. We hire you. We vote on hire you. So you are our employees. So we should know in a timely manner what you guys are doing. It shouldn't be a free for all. You know, all kinds of things being done in the way that people want it to be done. So, and of course, I'm only touching the tip of the iceberg. There are a lot of other things, a lot of dirty linens, you know, that are, you know, out there, and people don't want to talk about them. But when you have a little wound, then you try to cover it. Sooner or later, it comes out as a big wound that is, you know, unoperable. So I don't know.
Mr. Mayor,
I'm gonna be gone in 2 months. So not that I mean, I'm gonna be done in 2 months, but our structures should be a strong one. Our foundation should be such a strong foundation, so that other cities and other authorities, because as a city, we cannot hide the fact that we are under a microscope, both by FDLE, FBI. I mean, of course. I mean, we are, if things, that's why we get audited every so often, so that, I mean, we're lucky enough that they're giving us, you know, warnings or alerts as to what we need to keep our eyes on. But truthfully, in the past 4.5 years that I've been here, I think we've been a very little bit too slack as a council. We should keep a little bit of a leash on administration, on the way they spend money, on their spending and their travel. That's my recommendation.
Mr. Mayor, and can I follow you with those recommendations? Sometimes I don't even understand how come, and the whole administration is gone. The city manager is gone, the deputy city manager is gone, the city attorney is gone. Everybody are traveling, and sometimes we haven't even received any memo stated who's in charge of the city. Like the deputy city attorney. The city manager and the deputy city manager were gone last week. I didn't receive any memo stated who was in charge of the city's administration. I did not receive it.
I got
okay, you got one. I did not receive it. But I don't understand how come 3 or 4 members of the highest ranking of the administration are gone, traveling. And when we have to travel, the administration need to approve it. And when it's come for them to travel, we just receive a memo, they're leaving tomorrow for 3 days, for 4 days, and I think it's unacceptable. The other thing, Mr. Mayor and Mr. City Manager, we're the one that voted for that forensic audit. And when they make those recommendations, we were aware of that. But when it's time for you to send the response or the recommendation, I'm not aware of that. I didn't know you sent them.
Nothing, and that's the point. Nothing has. We've not the final report that you got. We've not changed anything. We've not.
Yeah,
done
but I
anything.
understand that they make recommendation and they ask and they give you 18 months to follow those recommendation, right?
Correct.
And you send the response.
No, the response that we sent, you were aware of it. We gave you the report. All they asked us to do is they're coming back. They just said, did you complete this? Yes or no? That's all the response was. It wasn't a new response. It's just making sure what we said we were going to do with the original response, we have actually implemented.
Did you send the response with
yeah, the response?
I don't have that document.
Yeah, because their rules require them to communicate with the mayor because he's the.
We don't. I don't have it.
I don't know where I found it.
I don't have that document.
They emailed it to you.
Okay.
Who emailed it?
The state auditor emails it to the mayor because he is the he's the mayor.
I understand that.
He's the person that they correspond with, and myself.
Are we gonna get a report from the administration, and were you telling me that you follow direction from the state auditor, and now you're in compliance? You're in total compliance with the recommendation.
They're coming back.
But they're coming, but you need to prepare a
Yeah.
report for them. Did you do that?
No. They're coming. We don't have to prepare a report. They're coming back. They're going to go through the old list and make sure everything was done. That's it. Which is the follow-up that they told you guys in their exit that they were going to do.
Okay, at this time, and can you certify or can you state it that you're in compliance with all those recommendations?
Yes.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Mayor? With your discussion regarding the travel you were saying. Okay, so is there administrative procedure how it does work? Because that would only be you and Mr. Kazo, because you have the purview to let staff do whatever they want to do. So we are your boss and Mr. Kazo boss. So are you saying the process, Mr. Mayor, you wanted well, first of all, is there a process?
Yes, we have a travel policy that's been in place for quite some time.
So who approved that?
So when I travel, I have the deputy signs off on my travel request.
Oh,
form.
wait. But he's not your boss. What do you mean he approved?
I have to have someone other than myself sign off on my travel request form.
You can trust us. We'll sign it for you.
That's fine. If it's legally it's legally appropriate
No.
for you to sign off on my things,
So
that's fine with me.
What is it that you are would satisfy?
You have some kind of document, either a resolution saying that maybe a DD,
But that would only be only to them.
that we should.
Three of us.
We should give the final go ahead. If it's a conference, that's going to benefit. Just like if
She wants you to
Yeah, to touch it.
Just like if I get an invitation to go to Vietnam or to wherever for a conference or whatever, if I'm invited by a mayor to go visit their city, I have to get approval. But if the manager
But your approval comes through our process, I
Yeah.
sign off on your travel request administratively.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. No, I think what he's saying is no, Larry. I think what he's saying, and he's saying we have to get it as to you, which is the process. He said he doesn't like the process how you and Jeff, not necessarily Arthur, because Arthur could do whatever you tell Arthur and any of your staff do, but necessarily you and Jeff, that process the way it's done.
If you want to sign off on my travel request, that's fine. I don't have a. I don't have a problem with it. It's
If I might, Mr. Mayor, I think
transparent. It's documented.
It's not.
It hasn't happened before that I can remember. But we probably should have thought ahead and not had all three of you traveling on the same weekend.
If I may, the reason all three of us traveled was last year we went to this was a public-private partnership conference that, as you know, we're trying to do a civic center through a public-private partnership. The two of us went last year. This was the second year. We had to go meet with some of the attorneys and some of the specialists for this public-private partnership. I asked the deputy to come because what I understood was because of where we are in the city with elections and everything else going on, there needed to be someone there other than Larry who knows what the process is. Because right now it's just me and Larry. And so I asked the deputy to come. I don't know what the process was, but that's why he came. Was because I thought for the city.
It's not him.
Well, you all got a memo from us that we were going. I mean, I'm looking at the memo right here.
What he's saying is not the memo.
Talking about the process.
Yeah.
So you're requesting that. So so next year, if we go to the public-private partnership, you would like a request to come from us to ask for permission.
That's not what we say. We are discussing on the
I would
dais.
like-
That's not what we are doing.
If you're planning
case, then
to,
we'll do
if you're
that.
planning to go to a conference, or if you're invited to go to whatever conference it may be, I would like to see a resolution saying that we want a resolution for council to approve the
travel request.
the travel request to
or
be
the
read
mayor,
here
or
and
the
approved
mayor
here.
review the process.
And that way, it's all about transparency. That way, the people who are paying for it, the taxpayers, they will know that their manager, my money is being well spent. He's going to get more knowledge. He's going to come back in North Miami and bring innovation and so forth. I mean, that's transparency.
I don't have a problem with it. Yeah. I want you to, but the council needs to understand, and the same thing with his contract. My contract, there is requirements that you've agreed to for me to go to certain things. So it's kind of baked in. I don't have any problem having you, the mayor, or the vice mayor, sign off on my individual travel requests before I travel. It's because I'm doing it anyways. I'm submitting the same paperwork that any other employee has to submit. It goes through the same process. The only difference is my deputy signs.
But Larry, we understand that. The same way you have to review the paperwork of the employee and you sign off on it, we want to be able to see where you're going and if it's in the best interest of the city.
Just agree. We can, because it's an administrative process, so we can start it tomorrow.
And when it comes to the P3, as a matter of fact, you know, the P3 procedures, just like the processes, just like the CRAs, there are city actually. Well, actually, I think we've done it, where we've done a series or sections, you know, to get CRA education. Because if you're a CRA, I mean, if you're a municipality, you have a CRA. It behooves us, you know, to see to it that everybody in administration and also the council members should at least be able to speak about CRAs and CRA the innovations and urbanism and those kind of things. And it's the same thing for the partnership. I mean, for us to get into any three Ps a project, we're talking about multi-million-dollar, you know, projects, you know, that are going to be paid where city is going to come up with its part and then the private sector is going to bring its, you know, its part. And a couple of years ago, we had your company. That was your company, right? Mr. Attorney, that came in and gave us the company you used to work with. Yeah. So yeah, they came in and give was it a 2 hour, I believe 2 hour section about, you know, private you know, public-private partnership. But we can get these locally too. But if they happen to be occurring elsewhere, and we would like to, you know, take advantage of it, of course, so be it. And then maybe the vice mayor might be interested in going as well. One of the council members might want to go. So if that way, the knowledge will be shared. Yeah, that's all. So.
Can you give us an update on your exchange conversation with the state auditor about the forensic audit?
It was just a basic entrance conference where they say they had the auditor general. They're finishing up Opalaka, and they just happened to be in the area, so they wanted to come by. They let us know that they're coming back.
When are they coming officially?
They gave us a window, which is basically the end of this month, or like between the end of this month and the second week of April. Mm-hmm. But they would let us know. We haven't received the correspondence.
That's when all they're gonna be working on is the recommendations.
The follow up from the prior findings.
What about if there is new allegations, new comments, or new?
They're just doing the follow up from the previous findings.
Okay, if we, as a council, right, would like to add in the scope of work, how do we do that?
The same way you did it before, but it would be, they're going to still do this audit, but that would be that would be considered
if we request a new scope of work.
Yeah. Because we're not paying for this follow up. We already paid for it when we paid the first time.
That's when the council have to pass some type of resolution, ask them to, if we want to extend it to another year, or to complaints or any allegations, any review that we want them to do.
Yeah, the same process you did last time.
Mr. City Attorney, do we have to come up with an amendment on the previous forensic audit, or we just bring a new resolution about it?
That's not a legal question, sir. That's not a legal question. I have no idea how the audit works.
We're talking about the resolution that was passed in order to allow the state to come and do a forensic audit in the city.
If you did it by resolution last time, then you do it
yes,
by resolution.
that's what we did, yes.
Okay, so you do it again.
Through the manager. The last time when we did it, the board did vote for us to reach out to the audit committee, the joint legislative audit committee.
A forensic audit to the state.
Yes, and we had to make a request for them to come in with a list of things that we wanted them to review and why we wanted them to come in, and then went to that board for a vote, and then they voted to come down. They then sent us a price on what it would cost for them to come down. Then we had to agree to it, and then they scheduled the audit.
Okay.
So it's, I'm gonna say, I'm not sure if it's as simple of, hey, vote come in, because they still have to take it to their board to determine if it's worth the time of them coming down.
Okay,
to
that's
do
when
it.
if you want to bring any amendment to the previous resolution.
Well, it'll be a whole new, you have to do a whole new resolution.
Okay.
And a whole new request to the Joint Legislative Audit Committee, along with
They're going to have to
what the
go
reason
before
is
the
why you
state
want them to do it.
and pass the
Mhm.
legislators and all those the previous process. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought when they were coming, if there is any complaints, anything, we just send it over to them and okay.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. Attorney, when I spoke to you about that, we have a letter of allegations regarding our budget. Let's bring out, this is what we're talking about. This letter has been provided to, or will be provided to the state auditor when they come down. Correct? Because, yeah, you mentioned that they had it because they asked if there was any litigation or anything, and we
Yeah, they
provided
asked
that.
the question that would, we're typically asked when there's an audit, are there any pending litigation, any pending cases, any allegations against the city? And then it's usually for some period of time, and then we provide them.
So we've given them the
I don't-
allegation.
have we
They
done it for
ask
this
for
one?
it, and
Okay, all right, so
they
have it,
ask
yeah.
if there is any pending litigation, and
But-
we provide.
But hear what I'm saying. The scope of their work is to
No, I
simply
understand that.
follow up on the prior findings.
No, I understand that. But when they ask if there is any new allegation, did we submit everything? Okay.
And I think, if I might, Mr. Mayor, to Councilman Bienemey's point, we also have our annual third-party independent audit going on simultaneously right now.
Okay.
And Mr. Kazoo said at the last meeting, I believe, that we did specifically ask about that employee's accusations to be looked at in that audit. So we've got the old audit being revisited, and we've got the new current audit about to come out at the same time. Before we ask the state to send more people down and pay them lots of money, I think we should at least wait to see what the third-party independent audit comes up with. And then if there's a problem, then the state is more likely to come down. Because I was intimately involved with getting them down here the first time. And
you have to say I was the decisive vote.
yes.
Yeah,
yes,
that's
no,
what you
and I
got to say
credit-
that.
I credit
at the
everybody who
beginning.
voted for it. But I know that they weren't just coming down because I was asking them. There were many headlines at that time that sort of gave credence to us asking them to come down. So
And a quick question. I know some agencies was around and asked for copy to see anything. Are they still looking at the budget? Like SEC or anybody who want to see some documents?
What is it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, we were, okay, yes.
I really recommend you to stop that line of questioning.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what about the traveling issue? We're gonna leave it as is?
No, I already.
No,
Yes.
they're gonna bring a resolution about that, and we will address it under that.
It's an administrative policy. I told you. We will.
We'll draft something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have any report?
That's when we're gonna call.
Yes, I
okay,
do.
The mayor
Yeah.
gonna. Okay.
I do.
Mhm.
I just want to announce that we did hire a new budget director, Rosalind Morgan. I sent out a communication to you guys a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I sent it out.
You did?
When?
Yes, 2 weeks
When
ago.
did you send?
I sent it to everybody.
Can you send it
At the
again
same,
for me?
at
I
the
did
same
not.
time.
That's fine.
Did you get it, Carol?
Yes, sir.
How come Carol always have all the
I send
mail?
it. I send
I was
it
gonna
at
say,
the same email.
stop having somebody else check your emails for you. Because
We
what's
went-
important to us might not be important to those.
I just want to welcome Rosalind. She's in the back. Thank you. For the public, she has.
Okay, February 26th.
She has some near 30 years of public budget experience. was a former budget director at at Miami-Dade County. She worked for the commission auditor's office.
No, I didn't get that. Okay. You sent the memo.
Right, I sent a memo with an attachment. Yes, yes.
No, there was no attachment.
No, the bio is not there. You said you were gonna
Go
send it
ahead,
after.
Well, you guys are giving Larry a hard time tonight. What's going on?
We know, but I'm just saying, you know.
But that's it. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, I've got a request, executive session on two cases, Cottle versus City of North Miami and Rona Scott versus City of North Miami. One of the cases is going to trial on April 1st, so we're gonna need to do a special meeting for that. I can't wait till the next meeting. So we'll be contacting your staff. I hope you will make yourself available for it, but I need to get some guidance before we go to trial on this one case. Thank you. There's two of them, Cottle versus City of North Miami, and the other one is Rona Scott versus City of North Miami.
And no reports from me, Mayor.
All right.
Wait, I think you had a report. Michael,
No,
regarding
you said no reports.
Mr. Clerk. Next meeting? Okay. Regarding
Regarding the election. Thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.